waiting for when the official YouTube thing is up and running.
And Josh, can you hear me? I'm still having problems.
Yep, I can hear you, Jay.
The camera's not working, but you've got me audio. So I'm going to keep working on the camera.
Thanks. All right.
Josh,
Okay.
Josh, can you hear me as well? It's Casey
I can hear you.
Bushka.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm actually in the car, so I'm just wanted to make sure it connected.
All right. Okay. Well, you're connected.
Perfect.
And I can see there are a number of attendees. Why don't we start? Because I imagine we're recording the YouTube, like everything's up and running at this point. So we are here for the October 9th special meeting of the Economic and Community Development Committee. My name is Josh Goldstein, and with us tonight are council members Jim Frayer, Council President Barbara Smith, Council Member Darlene Young, Council Member Heather Dunn. Those are the committee members. And then also in attendance, Council Member Jalen Seed. Again, this is me who's got their camera on and who's not, so sorry. Council member, also in attendance, council members Johan Lopez, Nicole Eady. Am I missing anyone? I don't think so. So that's all the council members, and obviously members of the public and staff are here. Just to go down the agenda here, the acceptance of the minutes from August 7th. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Smith. Any corrections, deletions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes? Okay, that's unanimous. Actually, is that unanimous, or did there need to be an abstention there? I think that was unanimous. Okay. All right, so then let's move on to the next part of the agenda, which is the public participation. I see there are a number of attendees here tonight. Just to recap so that anyone who hasn't been here before knows the rules, 3 minutes, I will hold the timer, and it just has to be relevant to a subject on our agenda. But otherwise, and then obviously state your name and address for the record when you begin, and we'll make sure that everyone who wants to speak gets a chance to do so. So anyone who wants to speak, please raise your hand with the Zoom thing. And I will make sure that everyone is heard, and I've got the attendees list up on my screen. So I'm just going to go in the order that I see it on my screen, and that's how I'm going to start. So the first one is Anna Tabachnik.
Oh, goodness. I wasn't expecting to be first. Okay.
Well, congratulations. You were.
Not ready. My name is Anna Tabachnik. I'm at 4 Gilbert Street in Norwalk. I'm going to try to summarize an email that I sent earlier today for the record. I watched all the Arts Committee meetings and read the minutes that related to the Eli Avenue mural, and I appreciate the Commission's work to improve the selection process, but I have some concerns. They improved the process, I believe, over the last time by specifying that there would be preference given to artists from Connecticut, from Fairfield County, and then more specifically to Norwalk. And they used the phrase Norwalk natives. The RFQ said there would be preferences, but then it didn't require applicants to specifically state how they're connected to Norwalk. Where do you live? Where do you work? Where did you grow up? So it wasn't possible to know from the RFQs or for the public to know currently of the finalist who's a Norwalk resident or what is meant by Norwalk native. I believe there's been confusion amongst some members of the public about whether any or all of the applicants are quote unquote local, and this is unnecessary confusion. The public engagement survey didn't include any background on the artists, their community engagement plans, whether they were local to Norwalk or Fairfield County, their websites. It was pretty much just look at these pictures, which picture do you like better? And I think especially understanding the artist's vision and how they conceptualize the project would have been helpful. It also, the plan said that residents would be able to give feedback on each proposal and then also vote for their favorite. I didn't see that feedback there. I don't remember seeing residency or demographic in the survey, but that might have been there. The selection process for the RFQ, the policy said that there would be 2 neighborhood representatives, but instead there were 2 council members that may represent the district where the mural was, but that's not necessarily the same as neighborhood representatives. I think if your plan is to just include the council members from the applicable district, that's what the policy should say. And then the AI and plagiarism stuff, I just thought was really handled poorly. It needs to be clear how you're going to evaluate that,
30
how
seconds.
the notification will be if there's a concern, and whether and how somebody can appeal. The process seemed biased against Five Fingers. And there's no public records of how the selection committee scored applicants or made recommendations or decisions. And I recommend that unless the commission can produce a record of the selection committee minutes, scoring comments, the AI screening processes used for all applications and their outcomes, the full public survey results with demographics and all of that, and then an official referral to ECDC,
Anna,
it should be redone, and I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll give everyone a 30-second warning, as I did for Anna, just to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity. The next name on the list, Natalia Aritsabal. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. I apologize.
It's okay. I'm used to it. And it's Aristizabal.
Aristizabal. All right. I'll remember that for next time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So yes, I'm here in support for Five Fingers. I have been working alongside him for over a year and very grateful for that. I would love to know many things about this process, especially how this came about with the AI accusations. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with what's going on. However, I did send an email earlier to you all and hope that you have read it. And if not, then maybe you can after. But Five Fingers has built a name for himself in the community, within the schools, with children and adults alike. He is a huge supporter of art, from pen, paper, the old school way. He has not only built his studio, but he has opened it to the public, and he's constantly serving our community. I don't think he's been treated fairly at all with this entire process. He has given more than enough evidence, I believe, to show that he has done that work originally. And for this to come about this way is actually very disturbing. AI is a new tool that nobody is really 100% sure how it works, how to even know if it is 100% true to be, to accurately say that this was used. The software is not even 100% accurate. So I'd like to know, who is the person handling this situation? Who is the person that actually submitted the artwork? How do we know they didn't tamper the work that was submitted for the surveys using the software? So I have a lot of questions. And not to mention, the advertisement for this project had only one of the artists who were selected as the background images, which is very interesting. And it was Jermaine's. So I'm not sure who's handling this. I would love to have this halted at this point and bring it back to the Arts Commission. And I believe that that is what the community likes. I have a
30
petition.
seconds.
Okay, I have a petition with over 300 signatures, and I'd like to have this considered. I think it's not fair, and I think he needs to be given a fair chance to show that that is his work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the list here, it just says iPhone, so I don't actually know who it is. So whomever is listed here as iPhone, if you could please identify yourself for the record.
Hello, is it me?
Hello.
Oh, yes, all right. Okay, so my name is Melody Reagan. Everyone calls me Sweets. Thank you guys so much. I didn't expect to be number 3, but because number 1 went, I didn't realize that this was closed to Norwalk natives only. So that was really my first issue, is that why someone from out of Norwalk got the opportunity to get this mural. I'm here representing, if 5 was treated unfairly, then do them right. However, I'm here to represent Jermaine. He's a Norwalk native. He's born and raised on Ely Avenue. By him doing this is bigger than art. Okay, now I understand that it was a voting thing, but we didn't see the voting results. Like, how much did he lose by? Did he in fact lose? I've never seen a vote for a mural on News 12. So when I did, honestly, I felt like he was winning, and this was something, a ploy to get more votes so he didn't win. But I really need you guys to understand he was born and raised on Ely Avenue. He started his culture brand on Ely Avenue. He gives back to the community on Ely Avenue, throughout Norwalk, throughout the state of Connecticut, and he turned his culture design global from Ely Avenue. I can't see or think of a more befitting person, because he's going to inspire, just like he did with other people. He's going to inspire other creatives that's looking at him to embellish on opportunities in their hometown, to get this opportunity to create a mural. Everyone knows who he is. He paved the way for street art. He made it in the newspaper for it to not be viewed as vandalism, but to be viewed as art. And I think that needs to be considered. I'm coming from the 1980s, when Jermaine was, all he ever did was skateboard and spray paint, graffiti and culture. And I think it's important that we as Norwalkers keep it home, reward him, because it's a big movement now. Everyone is able to do street arts, and it's accepted as art and not vandal. I think he deserves to be rewarded for that. I think he deserves to get this mural on the street he was born and raised and still gives back to. And that's it. And I really want to see the voting, the transparency in the voting. How did he lose? And not everyone on Ely Avenue are voting electronically. And if we didn't go to the neighborhoods to see what the neighborhood wanted, because we wouldn't do this in Silvermine. We would talk to the Silvermine committee. We would talk to the Wall Street Association. Why
30
didn't we
seconds,
talk to
Sweet.
anybody in South Norwalk to make sure that this mural that is selected is right? And not to mention, it does not match South Norwalk or Ely Avenue, and that's because he's not from here. I vote Jermaine West for this mural, and I'm hoping that you do too. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Sweets. Okay. Sorry, I'm resetting my timer. The next I see on my screen, so I assume it's not a second iPhone. I think it's just Melody again.
Josh,
Erica.
it might be because we have a few iPhone onlys in the list.
Okay. All right.
We can try, and if it's Sweets again, we
Well,
can.
Erica's next on the list, so let's do Erica.
Erica, you should be able to unmute.
Okay, just unmuted. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Erica DePalma, 110 Perry Avenue. I dialed in tonight because I had the privilege of working with Raf or Five Fingers on several national brand campaigns when we were both at advertising agencies. Our team would emerge from a late night ideation session with dozens of ideas on the table. And Raf would be the one that was tasked to bring them to life, and to bring them to life quickly. And I often sat next to him in those late night brainstorm sessions, and I watched as he built out the designs from scratch. He was translating abstract concepts into this stunning visual storytelling, and he was doing it in the moment. He didn't need AI back then, and he doesn't need AI now. What he needs, and what I believe that he deserves, is a community that recognizes his immense talent and the generosity in which he has shared it with Norwalk. Raf has consistently elevated our city's arts culture scene through his creativity, his commitment to this city, and his voice. So I encourage this group to please reopen the Ely Avenue mural survey, reevaluate the process, as the folks before me have stated, and give us the opportunity as a city to recognize his artistry his powerful message and the positive impact that he has had on this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Okay. Next on my list, Romney Donald.
Hi, before you start my time, Josh, my daughter
Romney.
also, my daughter would also like to make a comment. So is she able to go after me or how?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'll start first. Obviously, my name is Romney Donald, and what I'm about to say might hurt some feelings, and that's just what it's going to be. There have been a lot of people, mainly white residents, calling for this process to start over, but I have to ask, how many have actually stepped foot inside Rudner Court? How many have actually spent time getting to know the people who live there or understand what this mural could mean for that community? I just hope that the people speaking tonight, at the very least, live in the community. It's one thing to say this process was unfair, but it's another to speak over the very community whose voices should matter most in this decision. It's one thing to say the process, it's one thing if the Arts Commission had planned a mural in Silvermine community and they didn't consult with the Silvermine Arts Center or didn't ask the residents of Silvermine what they wanted to see in their own neighborhood. That would be a problem. So why should Ely Avenue, one of the few historically Black neighborhoods left in Norwalk, be treated any differently? Too often, Black voices are silenced and overlooked in the city, so please check your privilege and really think about that. Representation matters. Ely Avenue deserves an artist whose work, identity, and story reflect the people who live there. When you deny that, you're not just making a decision about a mural, you're sending a message about whose voices matter in the city. I was the first person to publicly call out the issues with the voting form because the process was not transparent or equitable. When you're working in spaces where Black and minority residents live, there's a responsibility to move with care, empathy, and cultural awareness. It's disappointing to see that instead of 5 supporting Jermaine at this juncture, he is organizing people to speak on behalf of a neighborhood that I'm wondering if many have ever even visited. As a parent to a young Black artist, I care deeply about what message this sends. Seeing an artist who looks like you, whose work represents your neighborhood, can change how a young person sees themselves. That's the kind of impact public art should have. So I'm asking this committee to act with integrity, do the right thing, ensure Jermaine is selected for the Ely Avenue mural, and commit to improving this process going forward. Because real equity isn't just talked about, it's practiced. Thank you. And then
Thank you, Romney.
my daughter can speak on her
Yep, absolutely.
behalf. Thank you. Hold on one moment. There she goes.
Hi, my name is Nia Calhoun, and I'm 14 years old. I'm also an artist. I had the chance to meet Jermaine Arts last year at a gallery where my artwork was shown for social justice. I've met other artists before, but I haven't met many professional artists who look like me or come from a community like mine. It really inspired me to see how he uses his art to tell stories about people and places that matter. I loved reading about the inspiration for his mural and how he planned on getting the community involved by working with the library to have workshops where he would ask the community to suggest names of respected individuals and historic references that may be added to the mural. He even stated that the community would be able to paint selective mural panels. When my mom told me that Jermaine could potentially be chosen as the artist for the mural on Ellie Avenue, I thought that was pretty cool. I imagined how it would feel for kids in that neighborhood to see a big mural that actually represents them, their community, their history, and their pride. But when I heard that people outside that community were trying to decide what's best for it, it didn't feel fair at all. And representation matters. Seeing someone like Jermaine's work on that wall would mean a lot. And not just to me, but to a lot of other kids who want to see themselves in something beautiful and powerful. Please choose an artist who reflects the people who live there. This mural is more than just paint on a canvas. It's a message that their stories and our stories matter.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure you're finished, if you were finished or if you have more to say.
I'm finished.
Well, thank you so much. It's not every day that we get a student speaking out at a public meeting like this. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you. And I'm really glad you come out some more. we could use it. Okay, there's another, I don't know if it's another iPhone or if it's still Melody, but let's check just in case.
I'm sorry, it is still me.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure because we want to give everyone one chance to, make their public comment. So thank you so much. Okay, I see Diane Lauricella.
Good evening, Chair Goldstein, members of this committee, other council members listening in, and staff. My name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I am sad that my request for an in-person meeting was not granted because I do think this rises to the same interest that the West Avenue mural did. But since it wasn't, I'll just state that I submitted some brief comments that the staff has put in onto the record. I would like to say, here are my reasons for speaking tonight. I think we need to rethink and look in the mirror the process that evolved on the Ely Avenue mural mess, which is what I'm calling it, is very similar to what happened with West Avenue, except for the fact that I approve and am thankful that local talent was at least given a chance. But that's when it went off the rails. This particular process is not ready for prime time. The optics are bad on the way this evolved, and the course correction after it was properly called up by Ms. Romney Donald about the survey. She was one of the first people, but many of us started finding that the survey process also was poorly rendered. We would like, or I would like, to hold those that were charged with helping the layman Arts Commission and those on the Arts Commission accountable, because this is not the first time at the rodeo. They knew there was a lot of interest in the West Avenue mural. I think there has been poor advice from the staff. And as many of you know, I really care about process and structure only to keep us out of trouble. And unfortunately, we still are having problems with the structure and process. There were sudden game changes. I was shocked when I saw what appeared to be now 2 different contracts for $70,000 to Jamaine and Oksana. I think that was a poorly written agenda. It's insulting, and it has, the way this process has come about with the help of the staff, or the lack of help, and that is that it has caused great stress amongst the artists in the Latino, African American, the artist community. I am an Italian, Hungarians that all lived in the
30
area.
seconds.
I do appreciate what Ms. Romney Donald and her family has said. I lastly wanted to say the MLK grant can be spent on other things. There are many other things that aren't being funded. I think you should bring this back to the commission. Someone who knows what they're doing should be advising them. There needs structural reform to go back. And lastly, I do think at this point, because I do not think he's able to do it, Mr. Casper should step down as chairman of the Arts and Cultural Commission, and Sabrina
That's 3
and
minutes.
others need to reflect on how
That's
to
3 minutes.
properly handle public administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to give public comments tonight? Because that's the last hand I see up. Going once. I'm sorry, I've seen hands going up and down. Stacy.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. Jermaine gave me the ability back in 2000 to express art when he had a store on Wall Street. And I just want to thank you guys for the ability to speak on behalf of him. And I just want to say thank you for just for this Zoom, and for Mel and everybody on the staff. I just hope there's another chance. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Next, Larissa S. Is Larissa able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, sorry about that. I just wanted to say my name is Larissa Santella. I'm from Woodward Avenue in Norwalk, and I admire everybody's passion and everybody's commitment to their favorite artists and what they mean to them. I also want to just acknowledge that I think this whole thing is about transparency and making sure that all the artists that are involved get a fair shot. I want to know, just like many others that are, rooting for Five Fingers, and I want to make sure that whatever these allegations are coming from, the AI allegations, we want to be able to make sure that we have transparency in regarding to how that came about. I think everybody does deserve a fair shot with honor and loyalty, and I think that when you are accusing someone that has worked so hard for all of their lives to create a movement that represents love and honor and honesty, when you accuse them of something so big, when they work so hard, I think that that is something that can be very harmful and disrespectful. So I think going forward, this council has to be very transparent and very careful on how they go about and figuring out how they're going to be respectful to the artists that are from here and that are trying to make this community great, and to make this community, especially when it comes to minorities and representation, like I heard the little girl say. I thought that was so eloquent. But I also want to make sure that we know that all of these artists represent something that is meaningful, and accusing someone of something that has not been proven is very harmful. And that's all I want to say about that. And I am in support of Five Fingers. I just want to express that.
Okay, thank you, Larissa. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to give comment? If so, please raise your hand or indicate in some way that you'd like to speak, because I'd like to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to do so. So I do not see any hands up. Going once, going twice. Okay. I think now, unless there are any last minute hands, I'm going to close public participation. Okay. So then we're going to pick up with the agenda under new business. The first item, transportation, mobility, and parking. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Fiber Optic Plus LLC to provide city fiber optic cable emergency and maintenance services for an amount of $50,000. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Fryer. I think Fred, you're the one who's going to discuss this item, correct?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Fred Eshragi, traffic engineer with the city. About this request, so during the last, I think about 12 months, IT department and TMP, pretty much working together to connect 5 fire stations to public libraries and police department, and also fire department headquarters. Pretty much everybody connected to our traffic network. So traffic network is, the fiber optic that we're using for the traffic network, it's including close to 10 miles of fiber going around the city. And with this project that we did during the last year, we're bringing pretty much everybody, all the location connected to the traffic. So we are just kind of independent from third party. And I think last week it was the anniversary, basically the day that we were completely independent from third party, and the whole city network it's on the fiber optic that traffic run during the last basically 20 years. But to make sure that to maintain this fiber, which is about 10 miles. So we requested this $50,000. We had two proposals. One was from Certax and the other one Fiber Optic Plus. So as far as pricing and the experience, Fiber Optic Plus basically selected, and then we're requesting $50,000 for the to make sure that if any emergency situation happen, so Fiber Optic Plus can be there and then to resolve the issue.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Does anyone have any questions for Fred? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving this item? Okay, that passes unanimously. Fred, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to the next item. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute orders on the contract with Colonna Concrete for the Rowayton Sidewalk Project for a sum not to exceed $40,481. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Freyer. Ken?
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. Ken Bushka. I'm the construction project manager with the city of Norwalk. On September 10th, of 2025, the city council approved the transportation, mobility, and parking department request in the amount of.
Hey,
Jim, we're having
JC,
a little.
let me take over. It's easy. You're having
Yes,
a
sir.
communication problem, so I'll take it for you because they can't hear you. You're choppy. So in the last meeting. So I think where Ken is trying to go, in the last meeting, you guys approved an extension order for Colonna to finish the extension of a sidewalk project on Rowayton Avenue, which will get sidewalks from the train station north to Devil's Garden. When we submitted that, we neglected to put in you typically will see the it runs the contract amount with the contingency amount, and contingency amount we use to also pay for police traffic control throughout the project. I neglected to put that on the agenda with you, so tonight is just adding that back to the agenda so that we can get that contract out and get the sidewalks installed, excuse me, by the end of the year.
Does anyone have any questions for Jim or Ken? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, thank you, Ken.
Thank you, everyone.
Whoops, I muted myself by accident. Next item. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a master agreement for on-call traffic engineering services with AKRF Inc., Creighton Manning Engineering and Surveying, PLLC, FHI Studio, now IMEG, Fuss & O'Neill, Greenman Peterson Inc., M&J Engineering, Vaness Hangen Bruslin VHB, and Weston and Sampson Engineers for a sum of approximately $100,000 annually for each firm. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Smith. Greg, I see you're on.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chairman. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you for having us on tonight. And so this solicitation was targeted to find a number of qualified and experienced consultants to provide task-based transportation engineering service as an on-needed basis to work on, traffic transportation planning, traffic signal planning, traffic engineering and design work, including design plan review. Basically, each task order will be presented to each consultant. We have a staff internally that does a lot of work, but a lot of times we do farm it out to our on-call consultants to do a lot of the work and take a lot of the burden off our staff. And obviously there's so many projects going on within the city. And each consultant, has a lot of specialties, whether it's signal related or roadway reconstruction or complete streets design. So we, utilize them to, keep the work moving at a respectable pace and keep getting things done. Obviously, some firms, when we assign the task order, they're able to respond more efficiently as well. We set up a mini RFP process with our purchasing department. And we're able to get those task orders out more quickly and efficiently. And the work with this number of consultants also allows us to get more work more productive with these consultants as well. So, you know, we had our current contract right now. We only had 3 consultants. So having this number provides us a much greater opportunity to get more work out to consultants and also get more done and get the product out for the public to see the results as well. So we're also looking to get more competitive pricing, and we're introducing some new, much, you know, very qualified consultants from out of state who are hungry to expand into a new area. So we're looking forward to working with them as well.
Thank you, Greg. Does anyone have any questions for Greg? Councilmember Young.
Thank you, Chair. And this is either Greg or whoever can answer this. Have we ever done this before?
Yes, so we currently have a contract which we solicited back in 2022. So we have 3 on-call consultants, which the contract was for a 3-year contract. So that contract is up. So now we advertise this new RFQ process for new on-call traffic consultants now for new renewal of this contract.
So does it allow you to do multiple projects at a time? Like, how does that work?
Correct. So what we do is through what I call the mini RFP process, and we developed this in line with Sharon Connors, the purchasing agent. So basically, we have our 8 firms that we have under a master agreement, and what we do is we create a task-based standalone project, which we put a scope together, and we advertise it to only the 8 consultants that we would have under a master agreement. So they're not obligated to, but they can submit a proposal for that task-based order that we put out, and the city will review and then select the you know, the firm based on, you know, the qualifications, the price, what have you, and schedule. And we would proceed from there with that winning consultant for that one project. And then for another project, could be a week later, 2 weeks later, we would put out a separate task order for another project, which the same 8 firms have the same ability to submit a proposal for. You know, and the project range from small scale to larger scale projects.
If I could add one more point of clarification for Councilperson is, you know, because we've gone through the master RFP process to get to this selection, we create a master agreement. We vetted a number of the firms. So what this really does is we put more firms in than 3 to make sure that we can get better pricing. But the reality is when we do a turnaround, because we created a master agreement and we vetted the firm's event, we can then process an order much faster. It goes through all the back office. It's to make it the process more efficient. It allows us to get it out, and then hopefully where Greg was talking about, you know, people see the results in a faster manner than if we had to start this before. We kind of basically really what we're doing is we're vetting 8 companies that we say are qualified to do the work and you know, that would be part of TMP as it relates to traffic engineering and signaling and planning and urban development. So we vetted them, and then we're just going to go to a smaller group so that they'll respond. We can get them to respond quicker. Turnaround just is faster, I think, in this. It's just trying to create efficiencies.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any? Oh, Councilmember Freire.
So is this more like a qualified, it's similar to a qualified or preferred vendor that we would establish? That's basically the same thing, isn't it?
Pretty much so. We have a group of qualified vendors who can do the work. We'd still put a mini RFP out. We'd still do selection based on low price. But also we get people who have the specific needs. Like Fred talked to you earlier about our fiber optic. So we have that is just one firm that's going to look to do this. But the fiber optic is one connection of it. Who's going to specialize in the adaptive signaling that we do, right? Who's going to specialize in the types of detection that we have. We're able to get them here. So these are all, yes, pre-qualified, but we have a number of them in here so that we can get the best price at the end of the day.
And at some point in time, we will also probably look outside that group of 8 or 6 or whatever the number is to see if there's any other new people that may be just as qualified but cheaper.
So I think that's what we do. In this one, that's why we're back to you, right? So we did this 3 years ago. This is a 3-year agreement that we look at, and we would go out every 3 years looking for looking to firm up that list.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Councilmember Dunn.
Hi. So it looks like, so there's $100,000 per company. So that's like the budget is actually $800,000 for the traffic engineering. So if one of those companies, say, asks for $200,000, does that mean the others get theoretically nothing? Or is it a whole bucket of 800,000, or is it just each company, the max that you're going to give them is $100,000? Like, what's the actual budget here?
So I think we estimate the 100 per firm based on where it goes. But to your point, if there's a larger project and it's 200, the reality here is it will impact the number of projects that we could do based on the funding availability that we have. So we didn't commit to a specific amount per vendor. It's really going to be based on projects. But if the projects, if we do one project that's $800,000, right, for example, one firm is going to get it, and we're not going to have anything else to disperse to the other ones. But we do an awful lot of quick hit projects. The smaller, segments that we need assistance with, so they don't really typically get to that point. But to your point, yes, it could be just one that gets everything.
So
if it was
why,
one large
why is
project.
it not just listed as a line item request for traffic engineering services for $800,000? And
Because
my other question about that is, if we only had 3 firms, was it prior budget for $300,000? Is that where that's coming from?
I think the prior, so I still think we kept it to the $100,000 per firm when we did it. So, but we had our budget was smaller. We were more proving ourselves into this. And I think the reason it's instead of just it's one for 8, we have to each there has to be an agreement, a legal agreement that goes through the legal department for each of the firms in order to enter into an agreement with them. So this is just allowing each of our 8 firms the opportunity to have a financial agreement.
So this way, you don't have to come back to us for approval for anything at this point.
Well,
unless it goes over the 800,000.
Yeah. Unless we have a larger project, then you'll always approve the purchase orders over the larger project. But because I think you still will approve over the 100, right? This just allows us to be able to enter, get more, because I think the reality is we're always asked like, hey, there's this immediate problem, and how do we respond? And this just allows us to do that in a more efficient manner.
Okay, so we don't have to come back if somebody needs $200,000. It's just the 800,000 for all of them.
I think you're going to still do the purchase order, so we would come back to you for the purchase order for that. But for the lower ones, we can get we're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
Jim.
So that would, to follow up on that question, you'd still come back to us for the purchase order, even if it was a 90 or 110,000 or 100,000.
I think your threshold is over 100, so it would be over the 100.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The threshold for council approval for an individual purchase order is over 100.
Right.
But we still come back to you for that process over 100,000.
Yeah. So if it's 100, 110, 100,
yes,
whatever it is, you still come back to me.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that we don't know about the fact that until the end of the year when there's
no
$700,000 or $800,000. Okay.
No, you're always involved.
Yeah, and that'll still come before the. At some point, it's going to come before the. Yeah, it would always come before the finance committee as well. I would think. The summary of all of them.
Typically, it more comes through the.
So, for example, we have $25,000 expenditures that we do, and we don't come to the count, and departments don't come to the council, but they go through, and then we get a summary quarterly on the finance committee that shows all of those that came in at the 25 or less. With the
Right, so
aggregate, maybe 75, whatever it is.
yes, the purchasing agent will still track all of those and then
Yeah.
and then report all those, right?
Yeah,
It was just we're not bypassing EDC to go to finance. It's just
Right,
it is
right,
already
right, right.
doing that thing.
I was just waiting to see if there was going to be another hand up. Are there any other questions? If not, then all in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you, Team TMP.
All right, thank you, thanks, team.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. For the next item, I realize that it's really two that are together. I think for the purposes of beginning this discussion under B, Arts and Cultural Commission, why don't we at least just move one of them? Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with Jermaine West for the Ely Avenue fencing mural in an amount not to exceed $70,000. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Said. I know there's been a lot of public comment. I know that there is a lot to say. I do want to, Sabrina Godetsky is here if anyone has questions, but I do want to open up the floor if there are things that council members want to say or sort of begin discussion on these items. Councilmember Said.
Yeah, just I think we got 3 great artists here. The comments talked about 2, which are 2 well-known artists. And I think we have 2 problems. One with the process that people brought up. But I think another problem that's come up is one of representation. And I think that's, to me, that's one of the bigger ones. And I think Ms. Romney Donald had brought this up, but also people like Councilperson Ms. Darlene Young, and I think DeJuan Wiggins had talked about it down in District B. A lot of stuff has been happening down in South Norwalk, and people in that neighborhood haven't been represented. And a lot of things has been happening to them, or at least that's the feeling, that a lot of things are happening to them and not with them in mind. And a lot of times when you do these type of surveys or questionnaires, this is a community that's often not involved in the process, not because they aren't invited to, but just because the streams of getting the information to them is not the same. We put this up, and there is different parts of the community that usually participate in these type of surveys and questionnaires. But this is one that I think that we have to treat a little bit more delicately, because it is a community that feels like they're left out and disenfranchised. And I think that, to me at least, I think that's more of a problem. And I think that we have to really show some delicacy to that, to make sure that these things on these murals, because people do feel like that. It's a mural that's over by the train station, I forgot, in South Norwalk, and people were just like, this does not fit in South Norwalk. This does not represent my community. And I think that that's a problem. And I think that doing something like this with the MLK grant money, I think that this should be something that we make sure that people in this community, especially in Ely Ave, those are the less fortunate, the people who just have been disenfranchised. And I think that we really need to make sure that we are true to that, and we make sure that we're honoring that community, because if not, this could just look like another form of gentrification, and people just feeling like they're being pushed out of their city and not being represented.
I see that Councilmember DeJuan Wiggins is in attendance and has his hand up. DeJuan, is there something you'd like to say?
Yes, I wish I could vote. But just to kind of piggyback on what Jalen is saying, you know, someone that grew up in that area, visit that area frequently, that's still down the street from that area, it's imperative that we bring in representation from our communities. Because to Jalen's point, if it doesn't, it is a sense of gentrification, right? Not just by the actions, but by the art and so on and so forth. And it's really important to, and I'm, you know, all my colleagues, it's important for us to understand this and how important this is, because when you're dealing with a community that seem like they have no say, right, in anything that they do. Even when we look at the voting, our communities really don't come out and vote because it's that same hopelessness and same not feeling like they have a say. So I really hope that you guys could all really support this initiative. I think it's really important. Once again, coming from that community, growing up in that area, growing up on that street, spent the majority of my childhood there. It's imperative that we support this project. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be many projects to come. And we should definitely support our local artists. And I was a big advocate for our, the one off of Main Street, or is that Main Street? The rest of, well, I don't know. The one off of Exit 15, I keep forgetting. I can't even think right now.
The West Avenue mural.
Yeah, the West Avenue mural. Sorry, I had a long day.
That's okay.
I was a big advocate for local artists having a bigger piece of the pie in that project. So, we have to, support our local artists. They can get the job done, and they know the culture in Norwalk rather than other individuals that come from elsewhere. So, please support this, my colleagues.
Thank you, Dewan. I have Heather and Barbara.
Okay, so first I want to speak as a person who lives in Norwalk and has been very involved in the arts in Norwalk, as you know, for a long time. I'm really proud to say that I was the first person who ever hired Jermaine to do a mural in the city for the Art Under the Bridge project in Oyster Shell Park. And I was really, really heartbroken when the Arts Council, not this current Arts Council, took it down. And when we met with them, it was promised that he would get another mural, a new mural he would be able to do. I have been watching all along, and I was so freaking jealous every time I saw one of his murals go up in Bridgeport. And I was like, we need that in Norwalk. He is a Norwalk, I almost called him a young man, but he's not. He's a grown man now. But, I've been watching him over the years, and I'm so proud of him. So I support him as a person. As a council person, I feel like it's my responsibility. We're here not about ourselves, though, but to represent people. And I think that this mural is very important because of the aspect of community engagement. I really want the people who live down there to be engaged in this process, and I'm just so happy that they are. And so many people came out and are passionate about it, and the arts, that's what we love to see. So I really support him purely because I also think we're going to get a lot of bang for the buck with the community engagement and the people involved with him and the young kids that he's going to bring up with him. So thank you, Jermaine. And that's where I am as a council person, I think that we need to listen to the community that we represent. Thank you.
Council President Smith.
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns around the process and the whole discussion about the use of AI, Five's use of AI. So I want to talk about a couple different things. One, I'm really concerned about the discussion around the AI. I don't know Five personally, but I know his work. I know he has an outstanding reputation. He's a small businessman. He's a family man. He's an excellent artist. And whatever happened, I'm not going to speak about, but I have concerns about, these accusations for someone who is well respected in the community. So I just want to be clear about that. I really have concerns about that. I also have concerns about the process. I think when, I'm thinking about Romney's comments and Councilmember Seed. It's so important that the community where this art is going to be has a voice. And we know traditionally that this community has not had voice. So that's really important. And so when you look at the process of it, involving, like a survey of, people who are just like, clicking on, yeah, I like this, yeah, I like that, and not necessarily having an understanding of that importance in this community, I think that that's problematic. I know that there really were some attempts, and I think that I do thank the Arts and Cultural Commission for making those attempts to improve the process. And because we really want to support our local artists, and give them those opportunities. But I think we still need to fix this process, whatever it is. So I'm going to make a motion to table this, but I'm not making it just yet because I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. Because once that's made, we have to, move on. So, I would like to, come back and make that motion, but I want to make sure every council member has an opportunity to speak first.
I appreciate that. So Councilmember Lopez has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Sabrina, a couple of questions for you regarding the process and an observation about the piece itself. I look at the backup, and so I wanted to ask you, how many submissions did you actually receive, from those artists? Do you have their location, where they reside and stuff like that? And I see at the last review meeting, the commission took place on August 5th. And then the survey ran from September 16th to the 22nd, if I'm correct. So I think the survey was out for about 7 days. And so I'm wondering, why was it out for such a short time? And the last thing, I guess, is on the piece itself. So the theme in the RFQ says that it should celebrate cultural diversity, history, and community identity of Ely Avenue and Norwalk as a whole. I personally don't see that on that piece. I don't see sort of like the textile history, the undocumented famous from Hungary, Italy, and current demographics. I don't see that currently in the piece. And lastly, I did listen to the meetings and discussion about why the original artist, was disqualified, because I think you did mention the meeting that 6 industry standard AI detection software programs were used, and to kind of is it possible for you to provide that information? I mean, sort of like the evidence about, not only pretty much all the evidence as to what I just asked for, how many submissions you received, the location of submissions, and some of the evidence about the accusations of use of AI.
Yeah, so
I know that was a lot of questions. Sorry. but
Yeah,
just-
I'll start with the first one. We'll see if I remember them all as we go down the list. So the first answer to your question, we had about 25 responses. Of those responses, we picked out only the people who have identified a connection to Norwalk in some way. They were either from here originally, lived here at one point, or currently live here. So of that, we had 4 individuals who were asked to submit a full proposal. So when we first did the RFQ, we didn't see a full design. We only asked what your proposal would be, what would be included in that proposal should you go to the next round. Essentially, we didn't want artists creating free renderings for us. They take a lot of time and they take a lot of commitment. So that's why we do that first RFQ piece before we do an actual RFP piece. So the RFP piece, and I will say although if you were to go into the system and just read the RFQ, if you were to click to submit, it does ask where you live, where your business is, all that information. So we have, their exact addresses. We obviously don't put that out to the public unless it gets to a point where it needs to be. But essentially those 4 artists were selected and requested to submit proposals to us. We also asked Duvian Montoya as well to submit. He didn't have the capacity to do so on behalf of the art space because he has kind of that networking connection. Duvian declined, as did the 4th artist, who I'm not recalling their name at this point in time, but they were more a small scale mural is than a large scale mural is. They did more like canvas painting, so didn't really fit the mold. And the last three were Oksana, Jermaine, and Five Fingers. Of those three submissions, we requested them to submit full proposals to us. We gave them about a month to do so. Once they submitted those to us, that's when we ran everything through the software. So this wasn't like a pick out of one person. We ran everyone through the software. We do have that information. I can send it to you. Josh has seen it. The Arts Commission, it was part of the package as well. The results of the AI detection software. But in addition to that, that's not the only reason the commission decided to not include that submission specifically. The reason why they didn't want to include it is because the evidence that was provided after the fact offline, when we had requested additional information to certify that that wasn't AI definitively, was not provided to them in a timely manner, number one. But number two, they just didn't feel comfortable with what was submitted in the time frame, which were some vector files, another presentation that showed a little bit of his process work of how he got his ideas, things like that. They didn't feel that was sufficient enough evidence to move forward. If you watch the August meeting, there is one of the files that one of the commissioners brings up and shows kind of the points on the actual drawing and how it was probably grabbed from somewhere else instead of drawn, which I'm not an expert in any of this. I wish Brian was here to explain that piece of it. But a culmination of a bunch of things, not just the AI detectors, is what essentially led to the commission's decision. The room was pretty one-sided. There were, I believe, don't quote me on this part, but I think there were 6 approvals to not include him, not specifically. The way that they voted was to include the others. We didn't even mention excluding. It was just, we're moving forward on including those 2 others and not the other one. Originally speaking, he was just not included, but then we went back, and as there was a lot of back and forth on the AI front within the commission, we had another meeting that specifically brought all of that information to the public, which is that August meeting. Now I'm forgetting the other questions, but is there anything else?
Sorry about no, sorry. And so thank you for that. And so with respect to the survey, why was it only 7 days, and why did it take about say August 5th, 40, I think it's like 45 days for the survey to be released?
So the survey had to get approval from a multitude of people before we were able to put it out. It was open for longer than a week. I believe it was actually open for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
You might have just seen when the actual press release went out about it, but it was out for a longer period of time. And I will say, the information's in my memo, but we've had about 1,300 responses. So one of the most interacted with surveys that we had. We did filter the data on both residents and non-residents included. So if you were to just pull the information, it would show that one person won, but even with the non-residents taken out of the equation, the decision was still the same. And then, so it was about 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks that the survey was actually out.
Got it. And on my observation, I feel like we're kind of repeating this kind of like the same contentious. Well, we're going to get to the point where we had last year with the West Avenue mural. Is it possible, assuming this artist eventually goes forward, or whoever goes forward, if they can refine the piece to include some of the suggestions that I just kind of mentioned, a more historical depiction of that area? Is that possible?
So it's really a policy decision on which way we want to go. So when we ask an artist to refine significantly, it ends up being more time and money spent to that artist to be able to do something like that, a revision. Also, it kind of doesn't follow the process then, because what we're getting is essentially a brand new proposal. So we would have to go back to the drawing board to make it equitable for everyone to be able to do that. We did actually do that in the Arts Commission. We had a meeting where we reviewed all the proposals that were submitted to us. The commission then made suggestions on things to change, things that they liked, things that they didn't like. Even there was also the opportunity for artists to submit completely new proposals that if they wanted to before the next meeting, so they could review kind of the final version of that based on the commission's feedback. And then from there is kind of when we got the final designs, which are what you've all seen.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's just I think I'm gonna have a problem with this if supporting this if we're unable to kind of if the artist is unable to kind of accept some of the suggestions for refinement, because I feel like we're kind of repeating what we kind of went through last year. And you know, so and the last thing I'll ask you is the $70,000. Do you have kind of like a breakdown of how that $70,000 is determined?
Yes, so the artist actually suggests how that money be spent. About $20,000 of that money is specifically for actual materials and what's going on the fence and paint and all of that. And then the remaining 50,000 is the artist stipend, but also includes the community engagement piece as well. So anything having to do with that kind of section of it.
Got it. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Because I thought it was like 70,000. Like you said, like this is the budget. What can you do with the $70,000? So no, each artist actually proposes their own.
Yeah,
got
so
it.
we
Oh,
had
okay,
this,
okay, okay.
this is like our cap number. We cannot go over this.
Right,
Honestly, from a per square foot percent, like we use when we made the request originally for the funding on how it was going to be broken down, it was based on the size of the mural and a standardized cost for per square foot of an actual mural to be installed. So that's how you got that original number. And then that number was included. So really the RFQ and the RFP is based on the quality of the work and what they're going to do with the money rather than how much it's going to cost, because we could get someone who paints just blue and it's $10,000. So we made it kind of standardized that way so that we're really focusing on the integrity of the art.
Got it. Thank you so much, Barry. That's enough. Over to you, Chair. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Johan. Jalen, then Dewan, and then I'm gonna say something after.
Yeah, my question is just, I mean, with the allegations or whatever with AI, we do table in this, like what changes? What are things that can be done that's going to change this? Like what new information or what is going to be done? Like if we table this in that time, like what happens? Like if those allegations, we have these and the commission and everybody, not saying anybody, the committee or commission or this or anything, but if people feel strong about the results of the feedback, then what changes? Are we going to put it through 6 more different AI finders? Like what are we going to do in that time if we table to kind of change anything?
From the AI perspective, there wasn't enough support at the commission level to review that a second time. They had said their piece and kind of they stuck with their first finding even after what was submitted the second time. On the actual process piece of it, if there is more time, I know there was a concern of getting real feedback from the actual residents. I think there's an opportunity to be able to ask, even if it's a door knocking situation, to be able to go and get that actual feedback if there is more time. I mean, at the end of the day, we may have the same result, we may have a different result, but from a process standpoint on the AI front, I don't know. It would have to, I don't know, like at the end of the day, like who's the deciding factor on if we were to include or not to include that specific proposal or not. But the commission specifically was strong on the proceeding as they have recommended, which are these 2 pieces being the ones that would be included for public consumption.
Dewan, then Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. So, just for clarity, right now, the vote is to move forward with Jermaine's proposal. It's a 2-part question.
Well, there's been a motion to move this item forward. Now, I would note that in the memo that goes with this, basically what the vote is, either, that's been proposed by the Arts Commission, is to have us select one of these two artists for this particular item, right? It's one contract, so it's selecting one of these two artists. Now, Barbara Smith has said that she's going to be making a motion to table. So if that motion is in favor, so voted by the commission, then there wouldn't be a vote.
Yes, but
So just to be clear on the procedure here.
yeah. So I'm understanding it correctly. So this vote is to push Jermaine's proposal and his work forward, correct?
So the item that's been moved
Yeah, no, I
has
get it.
been, yes, correct, to move it forward to the full council.
Yes, right? So tabling to Jalen's point, the tabling it is pushing it back to the commission to basically, to me personally, I don't think that's fair, because I don't think he had a say in anyone, in the AI thing. Like, now, if he had some influence to say,
Who's the he? I'm sorry, who's the he in this sentence?
Jermaine.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair to Jermaine, because he don't have anything to do with the process of the AI and so on and so forth. If this is what everyone came up with, I think it's important to push it through, because like, why punish him for something that he has nothing to do with, right? And I know Five, and I know his work, and I think he's amazing artist. But I don't think it's Jermaine's fault. Why is he gonna get punished for something he had nothing to do with? And don't get me wrong, the processes, I've been challenging the processes throughout my stay here in council, but I don't think it's fair to make him go through this process over, right? He put in work to get to this point, and I'm not saying any of the other artists did, but we're here now. Tabling it will only just push things back further. Once again, when you think about equity and when you think about this community, it's like a spit in the face. Like, you have no say here. This is not up to you, right? This is up to us, and we run this. And you have people like myself in District B from that area saying this is what the community want, not only by the constituents, but like I said, I know both artists, and I also know Jermaine is from that area too. I think Five is not far from that area, but I think it's really important for us to push this through. This is what community is. This is what community is about, bringing people from the community to do the work. And he shouldn't be punished for that. Now, if he had an influence, that's a different conversation. But if he had nothing to do with that process, why punish him? Thank you.
Thank you, Dewan. Jim.
Just a couple of clarifications I had was, I think, Sabrina, you mentioned that of the 25 responses, and then there were 4 with connection to Norwalk, and that came down to the final 3 then. Is that right?
Yes.
So was there how much weight? I mean, is there any other amount of weight that we give to any of those final 3 about their connection to Norwalk? So they're all connected to Norwalk in some manner or form.
Yeah, so the ranking system that we have in place in the guidelines is to get artists to the proposal phase. So it's not to get from the proposal phase to now, it's to get from the RFQ to the RFP phase, because we do give a very small stipend for that. So we're paying artists for doing the work that they're doing, even if they aren't selected. So the weighting system that would have applied in the actual ranking system in the guidelines didn't apply, because we just selected all of the Norwalk connected artists to put forward proposals. And of those, only those 3 responded to us.
Okay, so the idea of being a native Norwalker as opposed to living 3/4 of your life in Norwalk wouldn't make any difference.
No, it was just connection to Norwalk or no connection at all, because the other submissions were, I mean, we got one from Michigan, though it clearly said to be from Connecticut, at least in Fairfield County and Norwalk. But the other submissions were other places in Connecticut. Their work might have not been directly related. We got some proposals that were, hundreds of thousands of dollars to put like a wrought iron fence that has a design in it. They ran kind of the gamut. But the ones that were selected from Norwalk were actually capable of doing the work, and were local here in some capacity, whether they have a business here, they're originally from here, or they live here currently.
Okay. And then the last thing I had was I'm just a little uncomfortable with the AI allegations and the opinion of or to disqualify somebody because there's allegations of AI, and it doesn't appear to me that it's clear cut that was proven or disproven one way or the other. And that's just a statement I'm going to make. And that's about it.
All right.
Barbara?
I'm done.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jawan, there's, my thinking on a motion to table is not about punishing Jermaine. It's about the process. It's about the concerns of like Mr. Ferrer just said, the accusations of AI, and also because the other factor is in the poll. Oksana won the poll, and the community was not included in that decision. And so sending it back to the commission to go through that vote process again and include the community, I see as a benefit to Jermaine. If the committee feels that the better thing to do is to, now we have the option, right? We're looking at both pieces of art, and we have the option to vote, for Jermaine's, which is more, I like it. It's lovely. I think that, my personal opinion is Oksana's art does not fit the space, the community. So I like it. It's just the whole process, as well as my concerns for the accusations. That was my reason for wanting to table it back to the committee, or to the commission.
But I think what it ultimately does is punish him. I know that's not your intention, but it will punish him, right? And I think that will be the problem. Once again, like I need us to hear this, right? When we're in our communities, that people that don't civically engage, that doesn't show up, that doesn't vote, and don't have a voice, and when there's an opportunity to give our community a voice, to give our community that come from these communities that look like them, that people are familiar with, it's imperative, it's important for us to, those in those communities, to have those moments. And if we don't, it's to Romney's point, it shows what the system is doing, right? And it shows a sense of gentrification. This is what it's doing. I understand that's not your intention. We have a lot of things to work on when it comes to processes in this government. We have a lot of things to work on. So if we're going to have that, we're going to have those things to work on. Let not this be the moment, because there's a lot of stuff that I've been talking about with the processes that we haven't worked on, and no one was tabling anything. Don't let it be a moment where people from a marginalized community don't have a say. And that's what's important about this. I get it. And I know you don't have ill intent. And I'm not saying that's the case here. But don't let this be that moment. Because it just reinforced that these people have no say. And this is what I'm saying, right? And this is not about politics. This is about a marginalized community that having a voice.
I agree, 100%.
Heather, then Darlene.
Yeah. Dwana, I totally understand where you're coming from, but I do want to check that a little bit. Jermaine is a great artist, so to really say that he deserves it just because he represents a certain people, he is
That's not what I
a great
said.
artist. His work is great, and it has
That's not what I
It has
said.
nothing to do with it. But no, I know, but that's not why he deserves to be there at the first point.
I agree.
Because his artwork is good.
Yeah, and let me clear that up. I'm just acknowledging the facts of the processes. He's an amazing art. He done art. He got stickers and his artwork all over the world. So trust me, this is we know all of their art is good. We're not questioning the work, right? I'm talking about the moment, you know, and I that's what's important. This is a moment for a marginalized community. We know he did the Ryan's Park court. Like, we know his artwork is good. Like, that's not even without saying, right? So I don't want you to think that I want to challenge that thought, because that's not what I'm saying either. But I'm talking about the moment. This is a moment for a marginalized community that don't have a voice to have a voice. And I
And
don't
I
think you're wrong.
understand, actually don't even know Five Fingers either, but
I know both of them.
you know, his work is very good too. So I look forward to having a mural from him, you know, that we could vote on too, whether it's now or whenever. But yes, I think that we need to look at Jermaine's work in and of itself, because it is good work, I think. And the community is supportive of it. So that's kind of a win-win for me. And I really want to acknowledge that everybody feels very strongly about the process in Five Fingers, but that doesn't preclude him from anything in the future either. So I think that knowing that too, whichever way this goes, I think we really need to look at and have the Arts Commission look at how important it is to provide a space and time for that to happen very soon. So that's how I feel about that.
Thank you, Heather. Darlene, then Jalen.
So I really wanted to take the time to hear what everybody thought at this point. So this project, the first drawing that was presented to by a small committee was from Oksana back in June of last year. And that was the one proposal that had come forward as a potential project at Ely Avenue. And I had a huge issue with that. It did not reflect the South Norwalk community at all, number one. Number two, that was the only piece that was presented at the time. Fast forward to now, and I think probably May or so, when we first saw or earlier within the year, the first drawing, the next iteration, and two other artists presenting pieces. And I did ask back then, how was this presented and why were there no other submissions from local artists? And as someone who's been a part of the MLK Corridor Initiative from its inception, knowing that there were dollars set aside for art projects in that district in South Norwalk, and hopefully those renderings and artwork would have been done by people who look like and live in South Norwalk. And I heard someone mention that that piece by the train station does not reflect, in my opinion, what the diversity of the community. We talk about it so often, how we support and we love the diversity in this city. Diversity is not just saying it. It also comes in the form of equity. How great would it have been to be able to pay folks that live in the area for their artwork? Because we pay substantial dollars for those pieces to be done. And no one from the community benefited from that. I'm not sure where, and Miss Oksana is new to Norwalk. Maybe she's been here 2 years. I'm not sure how long, but she's been on Hanford Street. That to me was a slap in the face to folks that live here. We've got a great artist community, from young people in high school up to adults that live in this city. And I don't see us doing the right thing. And particularly when we're talking about what's going on in South Norwalk and with the MLK dollars that have been designated for that area. And we've got to do a better job of that. And so now that I see we're at this juncture here, I heard it said, I think there's opportunities for both Jermaine and Five Fingers, because I don't think that this will be the last piece of artwork that will be rendered in South Norwalk. And I think that that has to be the focus moving forward, because I'm really frustrated at this process, really disappointed in this process. And when I tell you, I looked at that first rendering over a year ago, and now we're here. There's something wrong. We're talking about all of the city, then maybe we can have a different process. But when we're talking about what's actually happening with the MLK corridor that is funding the artwork that's taking place in South Norwalk, and people of color are not benefiting financially from that. And they're talented people that live in this community and live all across the city. So I think that's an issue. And I'm not sure, you know, who on the Arts Commission, if they're even understanding that piece, if that's something that they know that should be happening or how they feel about that. But I think we have to do better. And I want now, moving forward with any other artwork going up in the MLK corridor, funded by MLK money or other funding, needs to make sure that no matter if residents come out and support it or not, because that can't be the thing always as well. We put out a survey, and because this one or that one, you know, at this point, it got more votes, that's what we're looking at. And this is not working. And as others have said, it's a huge disservice to our community. It's overlooking the community. And I'm completely frustrated and disappointed in the process that we're here having this conversation at this point. MLK has been around since 2019, I think, with funding, and it's 2025, and we're still having these issues about how we're allocating and spending our dollars and how it is not benefiting our community. We can look at the project in Ryan Park that did not look at having someone facilitate that looked like the community, that represented the community. And we do it time and time again. This is not the first time. And so I think we need to be more mindful about it and move forward in that way that really provides equity in our community. Lastly, I just really want to thank all the residents who came out to speak up on this. And I love the fact that that has happened, but there's so many other things too that we need people to come and share their voice and opinions on. But this MLK corridor and us funding these projects, we have got to do better. And I'm not sure what side I'm on. I hear you, Dewan, about it penalizing Jermaine, and it may be, and that's not the intent. And I hear you, and I'm not sure how I'm falling down on that, you know, what side I want to come down on that. But I also believe that if we move forward, we need to move forward with the intent that Five Fingers or whomever else will be able to have an opportunity to do something in South Norwalk. We can't continue down this path. It's just wrong. It's just plain wrong. Thanks.
Thank you, Darlene. Barbara.
Yeah, so thanks, Darlene. And as I really listened to your words, you know, and my reason for wanting to send it back to the commission is really truly about the process, right? But I'm almost wondering now if there's more power for the community if we do vote and we vote for Jermaine's art, you know, a member of the community, a piece of art that is representative of the community. If we move that forward and just the commission is really going to have to, you know, look at its process moving forward. You know, so maybe this is one of those moments that we leave that behind, we move forward, you know, because I think there's clear support for Jermaine's art here tonight. So,
But I also think there is clear support, and we've heard it for Five Fingers. And I think
absolutely.
there has to be another opportunity for some sort of art installation that includes that.
I agree with that.
That includes him.
I agree with that.
And it doesn't preclude anyone else. I just think that we are not, this AI thing needs to be figured out and talked about in a different way. I think Josh, you and I had that conversation. You know, how was Jermaine given an opportunity to explain himself, or the commission to show him what they thought? Like, just had
Well, Jermaine there was never an AI concern with Jermaine's work, to be clear here.
no, I mean Five Fingers. I'm sorry.
Okay, you just said Jermaine, so I just want to be clear
That was a
about
mistake. Five
Okay.
Fingers, right?
Even though, as Sabrina said earlier, all of the pieces were ran through the same AI detection programs, but Five Fingers there was an issue with his art. I mean, that's just a matter of public record.
And there
on
should have
the-
been an opportunity for him and the
Sure, I'm not disputing that. I just want to make,
right.
You just said Jermaine, I just wanted to make that clear for the record. Okay, Dewan, Jalen, and then I want to say a couple words.
All right, last point. I promise you I'm leaving this meeting after this. Well, I'm gonna stay for the vote, but I'm done talking after this. But I just want to make it very clear that I am a fan of Five Fingers artwork, and you know, I think he's an amazing artist, and like, he has support, Jermaine has support, because they're both dope artists. They're different artists. They're dope artists. They're really good artists, right? So I don't want this is not about a Jermaine. I don't want this to be a competition between Jermaine and Five Fingers, because you know, we don't need that division. I think it's important, and to Darlene's point, I think there's going to be opportunities for both of them going forward. I'm probably 99% sure of that, and I think, you know, the constituents and us on this council today has made it clear that it needs to be a process where individuals coming from our city is a part of this process, right? And it's stamping, you know, artwork all around our city, and you see it throughout the city, both of them, right? But it should continue to be that, especially when there's money involved. They did a lot of free stuff too. They do a lot of charity work, both of them, right? So we have to acknowledge that they're giving back to our community. Not only are they staying in our community, they're supporting small businesses, right? I've Five Fingers supported us multiple times. Both individuals supported us my organization multiple times. So they're putting money back into our communities. It's extremely important. But once again, last point, this is about a moment. This is a moment. This is a moment. And we want that to be the forefront, right? Like, we know they do good work, Heather. I know, Ms. Dunn. We know they do good work, but I don't want to undermine this moment for our community in South Norwalk, the marginalized communities, to have a voice. And you know, anything outside of that is taking that from them. Darlene, I say that to you too. Like, anything outside of that is taking that from them. We have to deal with the process. Like I said, I've been talking about that for since I've been on the council, but I don't think this is a moment to do that.
Jalen.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that, I mean, from what we heard with Five, was clearing up this AI stuff, and maybe even after this vote, maybe the Arts Commission could really look into that even more and kind of clear that up, because without that, anything going forward is going to have this smudge on it. And I think clearing that up with Five and moving forward, that clears the way to make sure that there are different opportunities for Five to move forward. And I think that's important, because these are two great local, like Dewan said, I'm not gonna belabor it anymore, but they've done a lot for the community. So I think clearing that with Five is more important, just to make sure that it does clear the way for him to have opportunities in the future.
look, I think what makes this so hard is that we have enormous respect and affection. For Five Fingers, I've met him a couple times, and I don't know him, but like Barbara said, I know his art. I know he's a very important figure in this community, and deservingly so. So is Jermaine. And, I take into account what everyone said. I want to note another thing about the process, since that's come up a few times tonight. I do encourage everyone to take a look at the memo that's included in the materials here that Sabrina wrote. I also want to really take stock of the fact that I know that people are, emotions run high. Art matters, and we take this seriously. But I want to make sure that we also do it respectfully, because I know for a fact that emails, texts, comments that have crossed the line, that went to, that are abusive and use language that is completely unwarranted, were sent to members of the Arts Commission and were sent to city staff. And while people have strong opinions, and I respect that people have strong opinions, we are going to be a diverse and respectful community. And we're going to treat each other with respect. And I really don't think it is in any way acceptable for people to be sending abusive emails and stuff to members of city staff, members of the Arts Commission who are volunteers. No matter what you think. And I was really disappointed and horrified when I learned that. It's just not cool. And I think we all agree on that one. I want to make sure, this is a really important project. As Councilmember Young noted, this is an important project that's been in the works for a long time. I want to make sure that's embraced by the community for all the reasons. And I think Dewan brought up a lot of the right reasons. We want it to be respectful and reflective, and, different people have different views on what that is. But I do think that one of the sentiments that's come through the public, even though I think some of the things that were written about the Arts Commission and the process weren't necessarily accurate, is the sentiment that they didn't feel heard. And I think that's something that we do need to take into account, especially as there will be more public arts projects in South Norwalk and throughout Norwalk, because we believe in public art. We think it's an important part of our developing of our community here. And we want to make sure that's done respectfully and done in a way that's reflective of our community. And we have a lot of beautiful things to offer. That's always been a part of this community's identity. It's why a lot of people choose to move here and grow their families here and return here. So that's one of the things I like most about Norwalk, and I don't want us to lose sight of that throughout this process. So those are my sort of big thoughts about this. I really want to just say that I love being a part of this community, and I want us to be proud of the artwork that we put in this community and choose to put in this community. And I want us, if there's an extra level of thoughtfulness that's required, then so be it. I will say that if a table motion is granted and it gets returned to the commission, that I be put on a expedited timeline, because I do want this project to be completed. But I also want to make sure that it's done, thoughtfully and with intention. Those are sort of my basic thoughts. Barbara or Darlene, I don't know which one of you wants to go first.
Darlene, go ahead.
Darlene, you're on mute.
I guess again, I maybe I'm just not hearing it. So if we table it, what's the goal of table? Like, what are we going to be doing?
Well,
and I mean, that's to Dewan's point. So if we table it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
let me respond to that, Darlene. So again, my initial thought was, to send it. So, okay, I think it has to be really perfectly clear here. And I mentioned it before, but it's got to be perfectly clear that Oksana won the poll. Initially, what was going to come to us was Oksana's piece. And then there were discussions about, how we can better handle this. And it was, what we learned, and I have, had some conversations with Josh and with Sabrina, that that since the council makes the final decision, both pieces could come to us. And we can vote between the two. So, but I was still so concerned about the process. I thought, well, let's send it back to the Arts Commission and have them redo, the vote, right? The poll, but by including the community, because I think that that's what happened, right? That's where the ball was seriously dropped. So, but I think since we have the choice, and from what I'm hearing from the members of the committee and from the public comment, right, is that we can move this forward. We can vote for Jermaine's piece, which I think we all feel good about. I think, and then we just charge the Arts and Cultural Commission with looking at the process and including these fine artists in future projects. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, unless anybody else really wants, to table it and send it back. I think it's kind of more of a matter of principle, right, to send it back. But how do we serve the community best? It's maybe by just voting for Jermaine's piece and moving forward.
Heather, I see your hand was up.
Thank you so much, because I think that this process has gone much better than last time. I know it still seems a little painful, but I think including Norwalk artists is what I know that I've been asking for a long time. I think the piece that might help in the future, if I were to put in a wish list, is to really look at a history of community engagement. So when I think of Jermaine, I think of a lot of community engagement for many years. I think of Five Fingers. He engaged with the community. He's a long-standing history of doing that with the community. So I think that should also be weighted, and that might help this process. And I think that because of that engagement, there's probably a lot of support that they automatically will earn. So that might be smooth things a little bit as we move forward. That's all.
And
Darlene, I see
I
your
want to
hand up.
say with this particular project, because it is MLK dollars and it is for a specific initiative, I am for actually. I think we move it forward, because if we have more art installations in the community that will be funded, then we know, you can't promise anybody anything, but I think we need to do a better job of making sure that the artists are from Norwalk, number one, and understand the community that they're, what they're doing, that it's representative. And I have to say, I loved Five Fingers' piece. I thought it was great. And I think we need to get a handle. I think the commission needs to really address what, the AI thing and
Yeah, and
I mean, as
the
AI
thing is
gets
hard.
bigger, like how do
Yeah.
you
Yeah, and there are a lot of
manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, Darlene. I
No,
just
no.
know that, and I rewatched, and I would encourage other people to rewatch watch the commission's meeting from August 5th. Because I mean, they set out guidelines in the RFQ and they did lay out their reasons, and I do think that this is a really tough question. We are in this age where AI is exploding. We don't really know what to do with it sometimes. And we know that AI sources from many different sources. And that can prove to be problematic for both reasons intended and unintended. And I agree wholeheartedly, and I know that this is something that the commission has been exploring, but it's a really tough issue. And I give them credit for trying to figure out how to wade in through this, and I note that Brian Casper, among others, did mention at that meeting that they know that this is a thing that other communities are dealing with as well. And hopefully there are industry standards and best practices that arts commissions throughout America, maybe the world, but certainly in the United States, are figuring out how to deal with this. And I am certainly not qualified to deal with this because my drawing ability is pretty terrible. And my, but I know that this is a really important issue. I know that they, had their views on the Five Fingers thing. I don't think that was, there was no conclusive proof, that was wholeheartedly one way or the other. But they made their rendering and thoughts, which is obviously known. But I do think that there is going to need to be some real firmer direction on AI, what is considered AI, what AI tools can and can't be used, because as I understand it, there are certain tools that use AI and others that don't. So I do think, there's going to need to be some direction there, though I would note that the RFQ was very specific when it came, and it was, on the AI thing, so unfortunately, while I was talking, I didn't really keep track of whose hands were up first. So I see Barbara, Jim,
Yeah,
Darlene,
I
but
just
I
want to
really
throw,
don't care.
I just want to throw in something, around the AI, because this is, something that we're all going to be struggling with and negotiating for a period of time. I was talking to my husband about, as I was learning about what happened with Five, so my husband is a graphic artist. He has his own company. He designs packaging particularly. And so I explained what was going on. He said, so I use AI all the time. I use AI to generate ideas. And so like he's also a painter, right? So he's an artist. That was his perspective. And I did say, well, it was in the RFQ, the RFP. So I think that, what we do is we use this, the Arts and Cultural Commission, of course, uses this as a learning experience. And, but I think we're going to be struggling with this AI business for, in many different areas of our lives. But I just want to throw that out there.
Jim, Darlene.
Yeah, I'm really troubled by this AI thing. I think Jalen hit the nail on the head. Is this going to tarnish Five Fingers? If he wasn't eliminated, would he have been selected? Would his piece be better than Jermaine's? I think there's a question mark in my mind there. So, I think by tabling this, does it give us a little bit more time, or give the commission more time to explain to us, yes, this definitively was an AI generated or assisted piece of work, or is it not? And then we are looking at it removes the stigma of dare I say, cheating, by using AI. And then would we want to use him in other, would we qualify him to do more work for the city? Or would we disqualify him for doing more work for the city? So I just feel very uncomfortable about the allegations that are against him. And I think for his own sake, I would think that he'd want to get that thing cleared up. So that's all I have to say on that.
Darlene.
And I think to that point, I mean, again, did he have a chance to speak before the commission? I mean, that seems to at least have been an opportunity to say, hey, tell me what it is you think you see. But I do think we also need to have an opportunity for him. are there places where, so is the commission saying there's no sort of AI generated art to be done anywhere?
That's their policy.
That's their position now,
Yes.
right? But that's based on what?
Their philosophical ideas as a commission, essentially. I mean, it's going to depend on who's on the commission, what their feelings are on the artwork and on AI and how that, you know, philosophically fits into all of this. But I will say, to Jim's point, the AI piece of this is only project specific. So from a perspective of will this affect him going forward working with us? Absolutely not. If we have another opportunity and he applies and we run it through the same stuff again and he's all good, that won't affect him moving forward with us specifically on a different project. But from a generalized perspective on the AI front, the commission has been firm with this decision for this specific piece, and their thoughts on AI being used in murals in general. And as Josh mentioned, it is a national kind of, it is a national problem that a lot of arts commissions and muralists and other artists are dealing with right now, as a lot of artists are losing votes or losing contracts based on pieces that were submitted that were AI and proven to be AI. So it's really like a philosophical question.
I'm sorry, Barbara, but so why this piece? So why this particular project? If you're saying that
this particular project with what was submitted as we ran it through the checkers was over 80% or 90% that it was confirmed it was AI. So if he were to submit a new piece for a different project and it was ran through the checker and didn't say that, then we wouldn't be.
I think her question was, why was the AI thing put in for this, the Ely Avenue?
Because you said he could do that could be AI.
AI will be consistent with this specific commission going forward for all RFQs, RFPs.
You know, and that's what I want to comment on is, so it may be in the RFQ, the RFP, well, the RFP itself. However, I think that they probably need like a mission statement, right? So it's like, you know, this is where we stand on AI. Anyone who is suspected of using AI will not be considered. I mean, it has to be really, really, really super clear. Do not use AI for, you know, to generate your initial ideas.
Yeah, it is specifically not in, you know, a lengthy mission statement form, but it is in the selection policy that they've adopted as well.
Yeah, it probably needs to be a lot clearer and a lot bolder moving forward.
Okay.
Anyway, but I'm not going to make the motion to table. I think that this is, from everything I'm hearing, I think we just move forward and learn. And we have a piece of art that is, you know, from a local artist who grew up in the area. And Darlene, what are you going to make the motion? You know,
This is hard.
It is hard. It is. It's why I wanted to table it back to, but let's think about it, right?
But
If
Barbara,
we
it
table
goes
it back
to
to the
council,
commission,
doesn't it? Doesn't it go to full council now?
if we vote on it tonight,
we don't
it
want to
will
vote
go
on
to
it
council.
then.
Yeah.
So if we don't vote on this, then what?
If we don't vote, so if we don't vote to approve Jermaine's piece, and that goes to the council, and then it gets, you know, approved, assumingly, and it gets done. If we table it back to the commission, and this is what, you know, I think, you know, Sabrina, you know, you can contribute here. What, you know, my initial thinking was I mean, they've already disqualified 5. So they're not, he's not going to be requalified, right? It's just that I have my concerns, as does a lot of us, right? About, you know, that label on him. And, you know, for someone who is so respected and such an important member of the community. So we all have those concerns. But by sending it back to the commission, does it fix it? It doesn't. So
it doesn't fix anything. in essence. It doesn't
And
give
that's what I'm
teachers
thinking. I don't
another-
think it fixes anything.
Okay, so,
And
so.
I just wanna
Okay.
be very clear here, and I know that we've been talking about AI. I understand, you know, the facts that have been presented. Five Fingers, there's no scarlet letter here. Okay? That's like, we're not doing that. And I really do not feel in any way, and I know that part of the thrust of a lot of the public comment was kind of looking at us like, and again, like I'm using sort of a lawyer analogy because I'm a lawyer, like us as an appeals court. Like, that's not our role here. It really isn't. And, you know, it is the council's job, you know, to vote on these public arts projects because we are elected by our constituents to do a number of things. This is one of them. But, you know, the Arts Commission did their process. You can disagree with their process. Like, that's fine. I have no problem with public commenters who do that. You know, but I want to make it clear it's not, you know, some final judgment scarlet letter situation. Five Fingers is an incredibly important artist in this community. Everyone here thinks that. He's, you know, he is a respected person. And as Sabrina said, you know, hopefully I hope he does get selected in future projects. I really do, because he does a lot of good for the city and a lot of good for our schools. And, you know, I just really was trying very hard to make this not about a person when this is really about a project and about what it means to this community. And by
it's
community,
about
I
the
mean the Ely
process.
Avenue, South Norwalk community. Just to be very clear here. So, like, I really was hoping that this meeting was not going to be about an artist. Darlene.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the artist. I think it's about the process. And so
Yeah, I don't disagree
that is
with
what
that.
it is. And so I think if nothing is going to come of us tabling it,
Yeah,
just prolonging it,
yeah.
I think we have probably a couple of ads, you know, we vote on it, but we also ask the commission to really re-examine this.
Yeah, I think we
And-
can
and-
send, I
and
think we can
that
send
that
some sort of direction.
direction on how we proceed, because art projects are going to continue to come.
And I would expand that, by the way. I mean, not just to add on your point, and it's Jim, I see your hands up, but I think it's directive in terms of a number of things when it comes to community engagements, whether the use of voting surveys is something we actually should be doing or not. You know, I mean, I do think that because there have been a lot of tensions and a lot of thoughts, and I'm cabining, well, kind of cabining the AI issue, but because I know that's an issue that the committee's, you know, the commission's been working on. But clearly, you know, people do not feel entirely satisfied with the process. That's understating it. But you know, and that's something that, and I know that Sabrina and her team work very hard on this with the Arts Commission, so I don't want to, and I know that there was feedback given after the West Avenue mural that they implemented here, and people even in the public comment acknowledged that. So I really want to stress how hard city staff and the Arts Commission do work. I talk with them pretty frequently, and I know that they work really hard on this project, and I honestly feel for them because I know that they've taken a lot of hits on this one. And, you know, Sabrina, I'm looking at you, and, you know, just know that like your work here is valued in this city. And, you know, and frankly, it really bothered me when I heard that there were some really not cool things said. And I do want us all to turn down the temperature a little bit. But I know we also want to make this process better too. You can do both things. Jim, then Johan.
One thing we have to say about the process then is that we are eliminating the process and selecting the artist, which is not the choice of the commission. And I guess the other question I got in my mind is that if Five Fingers was not considered or let me say it another way, that if it was not for the AI, he would be in the running. So then we would be choosing over Jermaine or Five Finger in that case.
And Roxana.
Probably wouldn't be choosing.
And Roxana, okay. So, you know, I would
And to
feel
be, and to
more
be clear, Jim, the
comfortable.
commission didn't actually select an artist. They kind of gave it to us. Just
But, no,
The
Roxana was,
poll selected the
poll.
artist.
I'm sorry, the
It was
poll.
the
Yeah.
poll, yeah.
yeah, so we're disregarding the poll and saying, okay, we're gonna select somebody different because our choice in art is better than theirs. Would we have chosen Five Fingers if he had not been ruled out because of the AI? I mean, you know, we're bypassing the whole process in this case. You know, I think that we really have an obligation to throw it back to the commission and say, definitively tell me that this is an AI generated, which eliminates him altogether, and you know, give him an opportunity to answer it. Now, you know, Sabrina, maybe he did have plenty of opportunity, and he didn't get back in time under the time he was given. But maybe there was some extenuating circumstances why he couldn't get back. But I don't know what the details were there.
That's not what we're voting on, though, is it, Jim? We're just voting
No,
on.
what we're voting on, from what I understand, is that we would be voting to give this to Jermaine.
Can I say
He's not in the running right now.
Jim, I wish you would have the same energy when we talking about other processes. Like I wish
do.
you would. No, you do not, Jim. You do not. You do
I'm
not.
sorry.
I wish you did, and I can't wait
Let's-
till another time that comes up when the process I can't wait because I'm gonna call you out on it. Because like we've been on this call for 2 hours talking in circles. Barbara just laid it out. It's a great chance that this is not going to be overturned. Is not going to be overturned. Why are we pushing it? It doesn't make any sense. You keep pushing the same thing. We understand the process is flawed. We talked about it for 2 hours on the call. We understand that it's flawed, just like other processes is flawed. But we keep pushing this like something's going to change. And once again, you're not from this community. You don't live in this community in South Norwalk. And you think you have a say. And obviously you're on the council, you do have a say, but it's not right what you're doing right now. Because if nothing's going to change, why punish this man that has nothing to do with the process?
Okay.
This is what I'm saying.
All right. And Dwan, I don't mean to cut you off, but I know that you talked about going in circles, and I know this was a point that has been made on the record. I'm going to call the vote because we have talked about this for a while, and I think everyone's had an opportunity to make their voice heard. So there is a motion on the table. So I'm going to say all in favor of moving
Could you just
Jermaine
repeat the
Arts.
motion?
I'm sorry?
Since it's been a long time since we heard the motion.
All right.
Could you just
Okay.
repeat the motion?
Sure, I will repeat the motion. So it's authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with Jermaine West for the Ely Avenue fencing mural in an amount not to exceed $70,000, account noted under MLK grant. All in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. That motion passes, which means that the second motion, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with Oksana Tanazov for the Ely Avenue fence in an amount not to exceed $70,000, is not a motion we actually need to vote on, as that was an unanimous vote to move Jermaine West's application forward. So now that matter is concluded. And we are going to move to C under Business Development and Tourism and the Economic Outlook presentation. I know we've been here for a little while. So I want to, Sabrina, I guess the floor is yours.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll try to be quick. I know it's been a long night. We'll get on some positives for Norwalk going forward. through this presentation. So we're going to do an economic outlook of what's going on in the city, what our population information is looking like, what our income levels are looking like, our employment data, our leasing activity. I know you all get multitudes of questions about leasing activity in the city. And then we're also going to delve into some of what we go into in the bond rating presentation of what our economic development strategy is in the city, some developments that are going on, and so forth. So just a short look at our population. So we've had a steady increase since 2010. And even before that, we could go back to the 2000s and see that we've been steadily increasing in population. The original PowerPoint that we did a few years back, we compared ourselves to Stanford. We were looking at kind of the closest neighbor to us that has kind of a similar demographic makeup, what we look like compared to them. So you'll see a lot of Stanford in here. You'll also see us compared to Fairfield County as a whole, as well as the state of Connecticut. So we're growing at a steady rate since 2010. Like I said, we have over a 9.4% increase since 2010. We're showing that we're increasing over 6.5% when we go census year to census year, so 2010 to 2020. And we have the seventh highest increase in population in the state and the third highest among the larger municipalities in the state. We are aware that this population number is probably undercounted. When we're doing any planning mechanisms, our numbers are normally up towards the 100,000 mark rather than at this 93,000. The census does miss people. There is an error of margin, so just keeping that in mind. And these other two graphs are just showing that Fairfield County is also increasing, and so is Connecticut, which is a great story as well. Like, people are actually coming to Connecticut, which is a great thing to see. But they're more often than not coming to the more denser cities like ours and like Stanford and our neighbors that are similar in makeup. Just a little look at the age breakdown of what we have in this city. We are the only one in our kind of cohort that we're looking at that's significantly getting younger. And we will see that the majority of our growth is coming from the age group of 20 to 34, which these are usually folks that are either just going into college, just getting out of college, getting degrees, and moving to our city or have been in our city for a while. So you'll see kind of for the first time ever that the 20 to 34 age group is now the majority in our city, and that our 0 to 19 has remained stagnant over time, as has our older populations. So it's really this 20 to 34 group that's significantly growing, and you'll see obviously the other groups are getting smaller. Our racial composition. So the white alone population in Norwalk is significantly decreasing over time. I think this is an important point to tailor some of our programming, some of our story that we're sharing. I know we love to say that we're so big on our diversity, which it clearly shows that we are. There's more and more people that are in Norwalk that are of different backgrounds, which shows that, you know, we're a welcoming city. People want to be here from all walks of life, all types of racial composition. So you'll see that that white alone population has steadily declined while the others are increasing. You'll also see that the other population has grown significantly, and that goes to the second graph, which is showing you that our Hispanic population is also growing significantly. And we've seen this in kind of our programming for schools, our programming and our events, things like that, that we're tailoring things specifically to make sure that we're providing resources and providing information and multi-language and all of those types of things to really talk to this one point. Our income level, again, steadily increasing well above the national average. We're almost double the national average. We've continually and steadily increased, as has that of Fairfield County. You'll obviously see Fairfield County kind of go up in that bar significantly. That's because Fairfield County obviously includes our neighbors that have a significantly higher income level than we are. You will also see that the household income is kind of divergent of the actual personal income. So the per capita income, obviously that's because you're judging a household size, which could be 2, 3, 4 people up to almost 8 people compared to just a singular person. But you'll see steady increase there as well. a big point that we like to make when we're telling our story to companies, to people moving here, to people who are looking to employ people, is that Connecticut, but also specifically Norwalk, we have a significant amount of highly educated people in our city. So that means we can have the employee base for these large companies to come in here to be able to have a skilled workforce. But what's also great is that we can tell the story of our diversity too, which means that we are able to have an office job, for example, that moves into the city with 300 employees. We'll have your managerial staff, your CEO level folks, but we'll also have that middle tier, that newer to employment tier as well, which is a nice rounded story that we can tell so that these companies aren't struggling to look for employees elsewhere, and that they're actually able to employ Norwalk residents at their companies and not have to get them from elsewhere in the city, or in the state, I should say. Employment levels in 2020, and when we were talking about this in 2022, which is the last time we had this presentation, it was a scary graph, but now we can see we've rebounded from that COVID number of 8.1. It's probably the highest that we've seen in recent history, and that was true for all over the United States. But for us, we're back down to that 3%. We have also continuously been around that 3%, which really speaks to, you know, we have jobs available and we have the workforce available, and our residents are working, and they're working in well-paying jobs. So back to more of a hyper local level, fit out permits is something that we look at that really tells us trends of businesses that are actually opening storefront locations or office locations. These permits need to get pulled every time a new business is opening a physical location. So this doesn't tell you the story of the other business owners we have in the city that might not have a physical location or might have already had a physical location that has been permitted. This just shows for this year what's going on. You'll see 2019 is kind of a huge outlier. You'll see that because that's the Sono collection that was hitting the books at that point in time. So a lot of those permits for each of those stores in there were pulling separate permits. So that's that jump. This year, you'll see it seems very low. However, we're expecting that to at least double by the end of the year. The permit season, traditionally around this time between September and December, is when those permits first start to get pulled. So you'll see a significant increase actually by the end of the year. I will mention also back on this slide that this is not reflective of our total business community. We have about 1,500 businesses in Norwalk. So I just want to mention that this is a physical location. This is different from actual LLCs and businesses that are actually operating in the city. Our leasing activity, and I know you guys get tons of questions on this. So our overall commercial real estate market is weaker compared to the US. This is true for a lot of municipalities in Connecticut and in our neighboring states. This is really just showing that the retail market as a whole is really changing. The commercial real estate market feeds in essentially everything that's not residential. So it accounts for office space, it accounts for retail, it accounts for all of that stuff. Our retail property market is weaker than nationally. Again, this is not a statistic that is something that's a shock. This is happening across the nation because of a change in consumerism. This is a change of e-commerce coming into play, things like that, that retail property and commercial property is just less used at this moment in time. But our other markets are stronger than the national. So we have a stronger apartment property market, we have a stronger office market, we have a stronger industrialized market, and we have a stronger hotel and lodging market. So these types of things is what really tells you what you can expect from a development standpoint and from a new business standpoint of what we'll probably be seeing in the future. We are rebounding post-COVID, which is good to see both on the retail side and on the office side, and pretty much on every commercial side that you can think of. So we were at a historic low at that point, as could be expected. We were blessed to not have as many closures as some other municipalities and other states were seeing during that time. But we are rebounding very quickly and we will continue to recover. It's just those markets, you'll see a slower recovery as there's change in office work and there's change in how a retail market is operating in the United States. So specifically focus on our Class A commercial activity, which is our higher end office. So you're talking about the Merit 7s of the world. You're talking about what's on Connecticut Avenue. We had decreased office availability this year. So we went from 44.3% to 41.7%, which 9 of our 17 Class A classified office properties decreased in the available square footage, which is amazing to know. I will note that the last time this data was looked at last year, we had 19 properties, but from the survey, they've removed 101 and 201 Merit 7 as they were, there's residential conversion plans that are well known in the commercial brokerage neighborhood. So they took them out of the numbers, which if we were to keep them in, our numbers would have been quite skewed compared to what we're actually seeing on the ground. 75% of the decrease in space that we've seen have come from 45 Glover Avenue, Main Avenue, and 401 Merit 7. There were large transactions there for over hundreds of thousands of square feet. So grouping that all together is really where you're seeing that major decrease. And although we do have the highest availability rate in a survey of our neighbors, it really is because we have 50% more less. We have 50% more, 50% or more less properties than other municipalities that are our neighbors that are in the survey have. So if you're looking at Stamford, Westport, Darien, kind of every other market that isn't us, there is at least 30 or 35, and at Stamford, you're up in like the 60s of how many actual Class A properties there are in the city. We just don't have that many. So if you were to compare square footage to square footage, we'd probably have one of the lower availability rates, but because we have such a low amount of properties, the numbers are on the higher end. On the residential side of the house, as I'm sure you can all expect, we're doing smashingly. The national kind of switch of saying it's becoming a buyer's market now is not true for Norwalk. Our average residential home price in Norwalk is $695,000. It's well above the national average. It's well above a lot of our neighbors as well. This is a 53% increase in the average selling price from 2020. So huge jump. And we even had a 5.5% increase from last year. So another good significant jump there. Properties are going to pending sale within 15 days. So you list your house on Zillow and 15 days later, you have a deal on the table. That is almost unheard of, but it speaks to a lot of the great things that are happening in the city and that people want to be here. Also 68, almost 69% of homes are selling over the listing price. So it's definitely still a seller's market here. And our vacancy rate for housing is one of the lowest in the state. And our average rent is one of the highest. We are at about $2,850 for an average rent. And we're 38% higher on that front than the national average. Year over year, you'll see it goes up between $100 and $50, and it fluctuates. But compared to our neighbors, Darien and Westport are significantly higher than us from a rental rate standpoint, and we are only 2% lower than Stamford is. So we're almost at the par with Stamford on kind of what the average rent is, but Darien and Westport are significantly higher by almost thousands of dollars. Talking about our housing stock a little bit more, I know you guys have been deep in the trenches in the housing study, so you probably know a little bit of this information already. Our renter and occupied units and our owner occupied units are evening out at this point in time. So we're almost at the 50-50 mark. We're getting quite close. We're still, owner occupied is still the majority, but we're only about 3,000 units in there. That is really the shift. The housing units on the other graph is showing that, you know, we're significantly increasing the amount of housing, but the graph's a little skewed because the number of units are a little bit smaller. So it does look like a huge jump, but in reality, we're only looking about at like 3,000 units from 2015 to 2023. And the reason why you can't see 2024, 2025 is because the data is not out yet. The survey only gets done every once in a while. I will mention though that we have historically low vacancy rates, as do most of our neighbors. This is good news because it means that people want to be here and people want to live here. However, because the vacancy rates are so low and that means there's a significant demand for housing, but housing of all types. So what's happening is if you're in a home and you live with your grandma and you live with your mom, but you're 23 and you're moving out to an apartment for the first time, it might be really hard for you in Norwalk to be able to stay in that same community. The same goes for your grandma who might want to live in a condo, or they go to assisted living. It might be really hard for them to find a place to live as well, especially a place that's affordable. So because the stock is so low, the market isn't able to respond to those types of situations where we want to keep the residents here that want to be here. This is just a further breakdown of the unit breakdown of other communities. You'll see Stamford is kind of similar to us. Fairfield County, same thing. But Fairfield County and Connecticut's breakdown of owner occupied and renter occupied is still very much so owner occupied. Stamford and ourselves were very close to that 50-50 mark. And this is just a breakdown. If you want to pick out your neighborhood, you can kind of see what the average listing price is, and the price per square foot, and kind of how many houses are for sale and what apartments are for rent. Again, you'll see based on the number of residents that we have, this is a very low vacancy rate in all types of housing. There's not a lot available on the market, and everything that is available is very, very expensive. Our 650,000 average home price that we talked about before, that's trending up almost 20% year over year, getting more expensive year over year on average. As you can see, the listing prices are all significantly elevated, and that has a lot to do with what the market is like, but also kind of consumer trends post-COVID of where people want to live and where they're prioritizing living. But also it speaks to us having a great community that people want to be in. So it's good news. So I'm going to stop here in the middle before we go on to our strategy, just to answer any questions you guys might have about the data portion of this. And if there's nothing, I'll just move on, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have right now.
No, this is great. Continue, please.
Awesome. So this is what we show at the bond rating presentation when you take all the numbers and money out of it. So our economic development strategy in Norwalk is a little bit backwards. So we, instead of cold calling companies and hoping and praying that a Fortune 500 just walks in the door, we really do build from the bottom up. So we're making sure that we're investing in our streetscapes. We're making sure that we're investing in experiences for quality of life in Norwalk. And it's really showing. We're ranked #1 for quality of life in Connecticut. We're the 29th family-friendly city in the nation, and we're one of Fortune 500's best places to live. So what we're doing to attract people to the community is working. And when that happens, the main thing that a business cares about is making sure they have an employee base. So the fact that we're drawing people here that are well educated and are willing to work and ready to work shows that this strategy that we're implementing is really working. And the businesses, of course, are following that because they're following the trend of where the workforce is. So I'll make this slide a little bit shorter since we did already touch on it a bit. So these are the 3 big pillars that we like to talk about when we're talking to a new business that's considering Norwalk. We have great talent. They're highly educated. A lot of our residents have either a graduate's degree or higher. We have our own private college in Norwalk for the first time, which is bringing in a lot of workforce as well with it. Those students are also working here, which is really great for some businesses that might need that flexibility from a college student to be employed. And we also have 4 nearby larger universities. We have some of the most world-renowned universities like Yale just within an hour's drive of us. So having these other universities nearby that they can potentially pull talent from is also very beneficial to our story. Our location is pretty much unmatched. We have 4 commuter rail stations, which is unheard of. We have investments that we're making in complete streets all the time. So not only getting off the train, but once you're off the train, that connectivity to how you get to work, how you get to lunch, how you get to shop, all of those things are working together to be able to make a great connected city that people want to be in, workers want to be in, and businesses want to be in. We're also an hour from Grand Central. There are plenty of opportunity to draw people, but also draw businesses from there to be able to have workers here who might be remote that have to go into the city every once in a while. Or if it's a larger company that may need to meet with a partner that's in the city, or a mid-sized company that needs to meet with another partner in the city. It's very easy to do so. We're also we're 1 hour or less from a lot of the major airports in the area. And I know on a small scale that doesn't seem like a big deal, but for larger companies and even some smaller ones that may have partners that are international or nationally, it really matters to have that accessibility. And lastly, the biggest thing and the most amazing thing about our city, I think, is our diversity. So we have diversity in people, and we know that, and we love that, and we always tell that story. But we also have diversity in our neighborhoods and in our businesses. You could come here and get any cuisine that you could ever want. You could come here and pretty much buy anything you could ever want. But also, if you're going to Rowayton versus going to East Norwalk versus going to South Norwalk, you're going to have 3 quite different experiences. And that's a great part to tell to our story too, because if you have to bring a company that has an employee that has to come with them, there's pretty much a place in Norwalk for everyone that they can fit in. And that's always a big concern if folks are bringing people into the city that are coming with them, is where do they live and will they like where they live? And we have a lot of options for that. And that's really something that is a selling point for us. Our employment base also is something that we should be proud of. We have over 50,000 employees working in Norwalk-based businesses. So this is not just our residents, it's people coming from other places as well. So this means that we have a significant amount of a genuine local economy that's really been flourishing in the city of Norwalk. 18% of those are employed by small businesses, which is a significant number and is higher than a lot of other municipalities. And the importance of putting this out here is that we have stability in our economy because of the small businesses. The small businesses are the ones that are going to stick it out and they're going to fight to stay. No matter what happens here, they're connected here in some way usually. We also have diversity in our industry, which is super important when you think about things like COVID happening. You have retail sectors and restaurant sectors that may dip a little, but then we also have the other side, like manufacturing and financial companies that might have had an increase during that time, especially healthcare during that time. But that means if anything shakes up the economy nationally and the local economy responds, that we won't have complete collapse at any point in time. So it's really important that we keep that diversity and we focus on that diversity. We also have a major draw of business travelers and commuting. When I first started, I stopped in at all the hotels. I stopped in during COVID, and then I stopped in after COVID. And after COVID, we've rebounded. We have between 75 to 100% of the rooms filled in all of these hotels, which we do have a significant amount of hotels for the size of our community in specific areas, obviously, that are near our Class A office spaces. So seeing that those are continuously being used and we have that availability as well is really important to a new company coming in, but also the companies we have. And then we also have these large companies that we know and love that employ a lot of our residents, but also help to tell the story of these huge companies are here. You should be here too, and here's why. So obviously you guys see all the icons, so I won't go through them, but a lot of Fortune 500, a few Fortune 500 companies and some larger employers. Now on the arts and culture and events side of the house, we used to not actually include this in the bond rating presentation until we understood more about the economic impact of arts, culture, and putting on events that has on a community. We have a return from one traveler coming in, you get about $45 for that person, minus event costs, minus why they're actually here, that actually spurs out into other areas of the community. So that means for your parking, for your restaurant, for your bookstore, for your coffee shop. All of those things kind of get that fallout from the events that are put on. So it's not just them coming to spend money to see a concert or a show or attend a free event. It's them actually spurring economic impact to the rest of our community in multiple different ways. And this isn't just off of our residents. These are from people who are out of town. A lot of our events are seeing about 60% of individuals coming into our city rather than our residents actually using these events. Which is also a good story to tell. Like, we're having a large draw from other places that are making us kind of the hot spot to be. We also have obviously our staples that bring in tons of people every year. The Maritime Aquarium sees hundreds of thousands of people. The same thing with Stepping Stones, and the same thing with the Wall Street Theater. So having those larger cultural assets here always are going to be a tourism draw and an economic draw for folks to come to the city. We also are significantly investing in public art, as we talked about tonight, but we have in the past as well. Other communities are not doing that as often and as frequently as we are. And because we are doing that, we're creating a environment where certain residents, but also certain visitors are coming here specifically for that. And having that boon, that other draw, the additional thing, is really making us a well-rounded community. We also, as you all know, we put on events for the city. Those are bringing in thousands of people. And we also have events that are put on by other organizers that are also bringing in tons of people. So that's spurring additional economic impacts, not only for our businesses that are in storefronts, but also for our entrepreneurs who are just getting started. Our Sono Saturday Market Series, we're seeing 70 plus vendors, and those are newer businesses that did not have the opportunity to sell before in the city where they live. So giving that opportunity to folks is very important. We also have support for small businesses and entrepreneurs, which again, when I first came on board, we had absolutely nothing. And when, as we've been on board and kind of made these programs with our team and get them out on the street, a lot of communities are looking to us of what to do right. We did start with the COVID Business Assistance Program, which kept a lot of our businesses open, which a lot of municipalities didn't have the ability to do, but through this council, we were able to allocate some funds to them to keep their doors open. We also have the Kiva program, which we're saving money on not being a hub community anymore, but instead we're a trustee community. So it's completely free for us to be a trustee community, and all of our residents are able to use that platform and that program to get microloans to get their business started. We are one of the only municipalities in the tri-state area that offers the innovations program, and that functions like a Shark Tank. It's really investing in our residents to start businesses or get on their feet or make that next large step. A lot of the folks that are part of that program and have been awarded funding are also hiring local residents. So they're increasing employment, they're taking up a physical space. We've prioritized those people, and we're happy to see some of them grow to the extent that they have thus far, and we're excited to continue that program. We also have the storefront improvement program. We've done over 37 properties since we launched the program in 2019. Obviously, we had a little bit of a lull when it was COVID, but now we've bounced back, and ever since we had our new business development manager on board, Alex, that number has significantly increased since he started a couple months ago. We've already had about 13 storefronts done. So it's really on the up and up again, which is really exciting to see, and something that a lot of other communities just don't offer at all. We're also partnering with the Chamber and SCORE and other business type organizations to provide educational workshops and mentorships for businesses. I always have the narrative when we meet a new business that we are part of your team. A lot of times, you know, there's been tears shed, there's been thank you letters, there's been kind of runs the gamut of the great feedback we get from having our small businesses coming to us and saying, hey, like, I needed you guys and you guys were in my corner, and I'm so happy that the city of Norwalk was so helpful to us, and I'm so happy that our process was made easier by connecting with you guys, and I'm so glad to have you around. We're the pick up if you need money type of people, but pick up and call us if there's a mattress in front of your storefront. So it kind of runs the gamut, but it's like a one-stop shop for all of our business owners, and we've got significant positive feedback on that. And that's something, believe it or not, that a lot of municipalities don't offer, is a touch point within the city that's specifically for them. And it goes a long way for both large and small companies. And also, to that point, the one thing that we were really focused on to make better going forward was our permitting and licensing process. A lot of times these small business owners are coming out of pocket. They're taking personal loans. They're remortgaging their house to be able to fund their businesses. So having a permitting process that takes 6 months is not financially feasible, and sometimes kills a business before it even gets off the ground and opens the door. So making sure we have a streamlined process of start to finish that's very transparent and runs through the system very quickly is gonna just cause a huge economic boom for smaller businesses to get on their feet and get on their feet faster. On the development trend side, I know we touched on the population growth. In the past year, we had the strongest development year in recent history. We thought that the mall development was kind of our largest income that we'd ever seen in a very long time. And that hasn't been the case, which is a great thing. We're continuing to see development. We're continuing to see that income come into the city, and we're continuing to see permits pulled, which is telling the story that, again, people want to be here, businesses want to be here, and the market is responding to that. Our building permits have remained strong over time, as I'm sure you've noticed on the street. But what we're really seeing is development in designated areas. So we're seeing it in and around our transit stations. So we're seeing it in South Norwalk, we're seeing it in East Norwalk, we're seeing it up along kind of the Merritt 7 area as well. That's where the significant amount of development is happening. And that's where we want it to happen. We want it to happen in areas that are walkable. We want it to happen in areas that are well connected. So that's where all of those efforts have been focused in recent history. And we also wanted to touch on the fact that we now have larger retailers that are noticing that Norwalk's the place to be. We have Wegmans that came in, obviously. We have Target, and we have PGA Superstore. All are national brands, and they've very much take into consideration where they're going to put a location. They don't do it just from a financial perspective. They do it based on all these factors we've talked about so far tonight. From a TOD perspective, I know Steve is not here to talk to all these fun things like he usually does in the bond rating presentation, but obviously you guys are pretty much well aware of a majority of these projects. So we have 10 Monroe Street, which is 150 units. We have 1517 Chestnut, which is 200 units. And then we have the Webster Street lot development, which is not in the works right now, but we have, obviously you've heard of it, you know what's kind of in the workings for it. So we're hoping to see something happen on that site going forward. On the TOD side in East Norwalk, we have 1 Cemetery Street, but previous to this, we also had the development that's around the East Norwalk train station that's already fully tenanted. And we could probably predict that going forward as the market responds, we can see how that area might change a bit over time. Again, we have a TOD, again, the Merritt 7 properties. So we have our Class A office space, obviously, which is 1.4 million square feet of Class A office space. It's our largest in the city. We have the train station there that is open, that has service and accessibility to Metro North, which is super important for employers that are going to be utilizing these specific properties. We have the Curb, which has 700 residential units that's completed and it's fully leased. We have North 7, which is 1,200 units that's proposed and going to break ground and has sort of broken ground. And the CT Innovation Center, which I know that sounds like a weird building, but it is the HMTX location, which is a flooring company, but it's the greenest building in the state. They use sustainability practices to basically design a state-of-the-art space, office space that is beautiful, and really responded to what their main goal is, which is to be sustainable and green and really responsive to what the environment is doing. We also have the iPark approved property for 132 units to complement their 3,000 employee corporate park that's already obviously developed and on that site. So a lot happening in that area as well. And then also the Wall Street West Avenue area, we obviously have the Pinnacle, which is almost completed. If you haven't been there to see their courtyard, you should go. It's beautiful. It has an amazing light installation there. We have the YMCA site, obviously. We have Wall Street Place that is finishing soon. We have the hospital development that they're putting on in those additions. And we also have, we want to touch point on the Norwalk Conservatory. Because they've become a private college, they're able to get additional federal funding. This means that they'll be able to accept more students. And as they accept more students, they're going to be leasing more space and they're going to be buying more space. So we'll be able to touch on that hopefully in the next couple of years to see how they're growing throughout the Wall Street West Avenue area going forward. And of course, our project of the year, Manresa Wilds. Obviously, you guys know all the background on this piece of it, but it's 125 acres. We're really excited to see some movement on this site. No city costs as of yet. It's $120 million investment on the private side. We'll have public access to this, and it's going to be kind of it's the first of its kind. And the designers and developers for this site are world renowned, and it will be kind of an amazing structure, building, everything once it's done. And I just wanted to touch really quickly on some other initiatives that obviously we've done in the past and some that are upcoming. We have our new zoning code in place, which again has been super helpful to be able to pull a use table and be able to tell a business or a resident what they need to do from a permitting standpoint and what they're allowed to do on their property. We have the affordable housing plan, which I know a lot of you have been involved with. We have the strategic harbor study. We have the complete streets plan. We have the SONO resiliency study in conjunction with UConn that planning and zoning and Jim's office is working on. We completed our climate action plan through the redevelopment agency. We've completed a tree canopy plan and inventory. We've obviously received, as you well know, many grants for transportation, many grants for coastal resilience up until this point, and we project that's going to continue as a trend. And we also, again, the online permitting and licensing system is a huge, huge thing. It will drastically change city processes going forward once it's implemented. And we're also, in addition to that, making information more accessible for residents. So we're taking all of our property cards and everything that you can ever know about your property and putting it all online. So you'll be able to search your property and get all that historical data, which again, for a resident is amazing, but also for people transacting on properties, people that are interested in looking at the history of a property, if they're looking to come here, it'll be a lot more accessible. And last, but certainly not least, here is our permit revenue that we've had in the past. You'll see 2018, that jump is the mall, as is leading up and leading down. That 7 million, that was the unexpected year. We thought that we were going to continue to see this decrease after the mall, but we did not, and it's continued to grow. And we've continuously been over our projected number and budgeted number for our permit revenue. And with that, I am done.
That was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Heather.
Does that include, I didn't hear anything about the, did the Walmart 660 Main Avenue transfer? Said something about a sale for $44 million. Is that right?
I believe so.
Sweet.
Yeah, I didn't get that information. I know that the Walmart property on Main Avenue is eventually going to be a super Walmart. So they're transacting on a lot of the adjacent properties, and they will probably be coming to planning and zoning at some point to make sure all their parcel information is up to date and consolidated. The plan is to make essentially that whole parcel site a super Walmart. So just a larger Walmart.
But the sale did go through this week. That's probably where the 44 million came from. And we get the transfer.
We get a conveyance tax. So when a property transacts, we get a conveyance tax off of that.
That'll go into our-
Yep.
Okay, good thing. Thanks.
Jalen?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's a lot of great things going on. But I just had a question because I think a lot of people in the city, this is very positive. It seems like a great outlook, but a lot of people in the city see with the restaurants closing, like Yard House and different things. And the storefronts on Washington Street, and everything just being out and open and vacant. the outlook to a lot of people in the public doesn't look as great as it sounds in this presentation. So how like why is that, and how could we kind of spread this so people kind of see all of the great things that are going on?
Yeah, so I think telling our stories, one of my team and Jay's jobs. We have to get out there, tell our story, make sure the public is aware of all of this great information. But on the storefront side, it is actually less vacant than you would assume it to be. Wall Street has significantly less vacancy than Washington Street does. And Washington Street, even though there are 8 properties that are vacant currently, there's 3 of them that have active leases. So they're actually doing work in those spaces. On our side, there's not much we can do as a municipality to force a landlord to rent a space, unfortunately. If we did, everything would be filled, and I wish that was the case. But what we can do is partner with those property managers, make sure we're having those conversations with them to see what the barriers are, and if the barrier is us, how we can move those barriers out of the way and make it easier. A lot of the conversations that I've had with potential tenants that we've either brought in or if they've brought in and spoken to us on the side is just that the lease rate that they're looking at and the terms just weren't favorable to the tenant, or they couldn't afford it. And unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to tell a private property owner that you have to, lower your rate. We understand that the property owners are also accountable to other people, other, be banks or people above them. But a lot of times that's what the situation ends up being. It's nothing that the city is doing specifically to not fill those spaces. We try all the time. It's one of our, biggest and most public facing areas of the city. We want to see those spaces filled too. There's just a limitation to what we can actually do. And it's unfortunate that we have the situation because obviously it's very visible, and to a resident it's very visible, but to a company, getting them here is the hard part. But once they're here, we have the easiest job in the world. The story pretty much writes itself. But the fact of getting them here and making sure they know how we operate as a municipality from like a permitting standpoint, but they know how we are as a partner and they know how we are as a support system is really important to tell that part of the story. But unfortunately, we can't control everything.
Yeah, I think really well put, Sabrina. And what I'll just add is that we're creatures of habit, and what I would say is that on my way to work, I drive all up by all the same places on my way to work, and I say, oh, that place is still vacant. And so I think we also have a tendency to kind of see these same things over and over, and it gets in our brain that that this is maybe a persistent or pervasive issue citywide. And so we hear the splashy news articles about like Pinstripes closing and Yard House closing or Sedona. And so these are kind of national franchises that are making national moves. And so, I think it really speaks to what most communities are not doing, and what Sabrina really articulated well earlier, which is the economic gardening that we are doing with our small businesses. Who these are the businesses that are, when things are going or things are challenging, they pivot, they adjust, they come up with a different model, and they improve. And so, these small to mid-range businesses are the ones that are sticking it out, whereas maybe some of these more national brands are strictly looking at a number or a performance sheet nationally and saying, all right, well, hey, what worked in Toledo, Ohio, or Tampa, Florida, might not be working here in Norwalk. And so, I think that is in all my conversations that we're having with executives and new businesses coming in here, and we're asking them, what can we do other than be better storytellers? And that's something that we are working on every single day to try to improve how we tell our story and all the great things that are happening. These executives are telling us, keep doing what you're doing, build more schools, support the arts, build more sidewalks, build more bike lanes, build more stable and affordable housing. Keep doing what you're doing, and we will continue to stay here. And so I think that's something that it's really important for everyone to hear, because it's easy, I think, sometimes to focus on some of the things that might not be going as well as we hoped, like, you know, those vacancies that we see on Washington, but to really channel some of our energy and momentum behind the things that are really working well. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I thank you guys for that. And I think it's just, I think residents don't feel it, especially just because, I mean, even talk about like affordability, and I think businesses are kind of feeling that too, but it's just they can't afford to stay here, and then they're seeing like businesses come and go and different things. So it's just that way it's kind of hard to, like, we can have all of the right messaging. And even with this, just it's people's feelings and what they see kind of just tells a different story. And I think that we just have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Sabrina, thank you. That was a really wonderful presentation. Obviously, the slide deck is out in the public and in the backup, so for everyone to look at. Is there anything? No. With that, we've been here a little while. Does anyone want to make a motion? Darlene.
Let's stay a little while longer. Just motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much,
Literally had to
everyone.
go off camera for a minute and eat something. 'cause I
Me
was so-
too.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.